Aloha, good afternoon, everyone. It is 5 minutes after 1 on the Thursday, September 25th, 2025, and I called a meeting, a public safety and economic meeting to order. All right, I want to welcome Councilmember, oh, she's not here. Welcome Councilmember Angela Tupola, Councilmember Nishimoto, Councilmember Okimoto, and Council Chair Waters. Okay, pursuant to Section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in person in the council chamber and remotely when the agenda is taken upon. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii pursuant to Article 19, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and the Section 1-13 of the Hawaii Revised Statute, members of the public may testify in either language. For our testimonies be offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time may be necessary and will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation for their testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. All persons who have registered to testify in person will be called upon first. When the timer goes off, please conclude your remarks promptly. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to testify following the registered testifiers. Once in-person testimony has concluded, I will proceed to remote testimony. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference or telephone will then be called upon. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. For persons who are testified by telephone only, I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When the number is called, please listen for your prompt to unmute and press *6. When I call for anyone else standing by remotely, please utilize the Zoom raise hand button to indicate your desire to speak. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. Some friendly reminders and tips. Video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you are watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television when you are called to testify. When the timer on the screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires that all votes at remote meetings be conducted by roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and then if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. Written testimonies include the testifier's email address and phone number will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off cell phones for the duration of the meeting. I want to welcome Vice Chair Kia Aina. Let's go. Item number 1, Resolution 25-256, accepting a gift to the Honolulu Zoological Society to the city valued at $9,300 for the transportation of 2 female zebras from the Gladys Porter Zoo in Brownsville, Texas, to the Honolulu Zoo. And here with us is Dita Hollyfield, Director of Enterprise Services.
Good afternoon. I'm excited to be here. Dita Hollyfield, Director for our Enterprise Services. And we want to say a big mahalo to the Honolulu Zoological Society. We're taking a big look at the collection that the Honolulu Zoo currently has. And one of the things that we always get asked about are certain types of animals. So this is through an exchange program for the accreditation team from AZA. And we're excited to welcome, hopefully by November, the 2 zebras. They're both females. They're going to be transported by truck to LA and then flown over as a gift as well. So we're looking forward to that. And we have a lot of exciting animals we will be introducing to our community over the next few months.
All right, members, any questions? I'll now proceed with in-person testimony in the council chamber. Is there anyone here to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, I will move on to remote testimony. Is there anyone here to proceed to testify remotely?
Chair, there's Angela Young.
Okay, go ahead, Angela.
Aloha, Chair. Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. Oh my gosh, I'm such a fan of zebras. I cannot wait to see the zebras. the zoo, they've been doing really fun shows. The wildest show that I got to go witness. Timo Garza was playing on stage. Did the jungle song, in the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion. It was such a fun song. So maybe you guys can put like the lion and the zebra on stage, and then that can help build up good publicity for the zoo, that you guys are animal friendly and supportive of local musicians, that also help to publicize positive things about the county office, Enterprise Services.
All right, mahalo, Angela. Glad you're excited about the zebras. Members, any question for the testifier? Okay. Thank you, Angela. Is there anyone else wanting to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. All right, members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you, Chair. Clearly, I don't have any questions for the director with regard to the items that are on the agenda today, but I did want to say something because later on in the agenda, we are going to be talking about lessons learned from the tsunami evacuation, and we have all of the various agencies here. So offline, Director, I always think that this should be a complete executive branch approach with regard to evacuation management, including for the Department of Enterprise Services, not just for the Kuleana that you have, but also with the zoo itself. So that's all. I just want to let you know that we're going to have all the other agencies here to talk about it, but you are impacted. I want to know how you're going to safeguard all the animals in case we have an evacuation and what you have in place. And I think that's something for the director of the Department of Emergency Management to work on with everyone. But to me, it's not only our first responders, the agencies that are on the first line of defense, but quite frankly, it's all of the agencies, including you.
Thank
That's
you.
all. And I just thank you for being innovative with finding all of these wonderful funding resources for improving the quality of life for our animals at the zoo.
Thank you.
All right, members, anyone else with questions? Okay, the chair recommends that resolution 25-256 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, any objections, any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. All right, members, moving on to item number 2, resolution 25-267, accepting 2 monetary gifts to the Honolulu Zoological Society in the amount of $9,000 to the city to replace and repair the base for the education program sign and repair of the hippo filtration system. Members, we have a hand-carried CD1 OCS 205-0769, 9:23:25 at 9:47 a.m. submitted by myself. The CD makes the following amendments. In the title, corrects the words system to systems, and in the fourth whereas clause, identifies the letter dated September 15, 2025 as Departmental Communication 703-2025, and makes miscellaneous technical, non-substantive amendments. Okay, here from the administration, Dita Hollyfield.
Thank you again. We're very appreciative of the Honolulu Zoological Society. They give between $200,000 and $300,000 every single year to underwrite some of the things that we can't afford in the city, the CIP, our operating budgets. And so without their incredible ability to step up and pivot quickly, we just want to thank Mary Benson and the whole entire group and the board that puts together the finances when we need them most.
Thank you, Director. Any questions? All right, we'll move on to in-person testimony in the council chamber. Is there anyone here to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, we'll move on to remote. Anyone?
Yes, Angela Young.
Ah, surprise. Okay, go ahead, Angela.
Angela Melody Young, testifying. Actually, I should testify on behalf of Roar, Rescue of Animal Rights, my animal rescuer. Just in strong favor of the number 4 top zoo in all of the United States, because they have incredible legislation to help with supporting veterinary practices at the zoo facilities, and as well as working on that specific legislation to help with the base sign for the education program. I think that's really critically necessary because a lot of families with kids that are going to the zoo for the wildest show and to go see all the animals. So it's very important to support the education program so that it can educate the public. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela. Any questions for the testifier? All right, members, we are in discussion. Okay. The chair recommends the resolution 25-267 be amended on the hand carry CD1 identified as OCS 2025-0769, 923, 2025, 9:47 a.m. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservation? The resolution has been amended to a CD1. The chair then recommends the resolution 25-267 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Okay, members, moving on to item number 3, resolution 25-200, confirming the appointment of Christopher Magnus to serve on the Police Commission of the Honolulu City and County of Honolulu. Members, we have a posted CD1 OCS 2025-0660. Let's see, 8/19/2025 at 10:40 a.m. submitted by myself. For your information, the amendments are listed on the agenda. Okay, here to speak is Christopher Magnus.
Aha, already on. There we go. Hard to follow zebras. That is first, I think, in my career. Thank you so much, members of the council. Also, I need to send a mahalo to members of the Police Commission that I've already had a chance to talk to a little bit, as well as union leadership from the police department that have been great in terms of having a really productive, I think, discussion with me as well. So thank you again to council and others. This is something that's very important to me. I have committed really my entire life to public safety, and 40 years in terms of not just working up through the ranks in a municipal police department, but then another 24, I guess, serving as a police chief in several different, very diverse cities around the country. So, okay, we live in Honolulu. This is our, I said final destination to somebody, and they said it made it sound like somehow we're talking about the end of life, and I certainly am not planning on that anytime soon, I hope, but this is the last place that we intend to live. And we have family here that are very close. We have a lot of friends, and I care very much about this community. And obviously, I'd like to give back. I think the best way I can do that is through this opportunity to serve, if you will give me that chance. I care very much about policing, good policing. I'd like to do things where we can help these guys. And the women and men of the Honolulu Police Department, I think, are doing some tremendous work, especially under some very, very challenging circumstances. Also think the community, the more we can serve and be accessible to the community around policing issues, the better. So happy to answer any questions that you all might have. And again, mahalo for having me here.
Thank you, Mr. Magnus. Questions? Councilmember Tupala.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Mr. Magnus. Thank you for being here. You know, upon your nomination from the administration, there was some pushback, and I don't see that same pushback here, which means you must have had extensive conversations with many people to maybe resolve any concerns they had. That's important to me because this is one of the toughest commissions. It's holding our highest crime director of the city accountable for things that happen. So honestly, I didn't want it to be easy for you, because if it was, then you wouldn't be a good fit. You know, it has to be hard because we have to double check that you're going to be able to sit on this commission. And to be honest, after we've had our meeting, I feel a lot more confident that you really are what we need at this time for the commission. We are about to choose a new chief. For me, it's so critical that we have somebody with police background on the commission. I love that people have professional background, but nobody knows what an officer goes through unless you're an officer. You can guess, you can hypothesize what it might feel like, but you don't know unless you've gone through that. One of the things I wanted you to share in very brief detail with the committee that I thought was most interesting about our discussion was crime analysis. A lot of people are concerned, right? From break-ins to businesses to increased violence, which, I mean, stats are not stats. Some people can say, oh, the stats are down or it's up here. We get it. We just need to make our communities feel safer. So briefly, with your background, how do you think we could better analyze crime so that we have strategies, frameworks that we're using to do law enforcement, as opposed to just every time there's a crime, we kind of, I don't know, surround it with more officers? Like, is there a better way? In short, what would you say?
Thank you, Councilmember and Mr. Chair. I am a big advocate of crime analysis because I think it is a tremendous force multiplier if it's done the right way. It is, as you said, more than just collecting numbers and disseminating them to show what direction crime is going up or down. It's an opportunity to be very strategic about where crime is happening, folks who are involved in that criminal activity, because we know it's always a very small number of people, but they have a disproportionate impact on the community in terms of that violence that they may be committing. Crime analysis involves the work of professionals. They need to be engaged both with the full breadth of the department. That includes right down to the cop on the street, but they also need to be in touch with the community. So I think there are a number of good models for this. I look forward to talking with you and others further about that. And I think this is just one more example of ways that we can share information to make this the safest city possible.
Thank you so much for your answer. Thank you for being willing to share your time here with us, because it's important for us as volunteers that you know that we're very grateful for this. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Questions, members? Okay, we'll move on to in-person testimony in the council chamber. I think we do have, yeah. We have Mr. Alex Garcia. Not here. Okay, looks like Alex not here. Is anyone else that want to testify in the council chamber? Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Tim Gary for the record. I don't know how many in this room have ever dealt with the police commission, have actually filed a complaint, had that complaint investigated, been found that the complaint was valid, and then had it sent over to HPD, Internal Affairs. That's where everything goes to die. No transparency. I looked up Christopher's history on Google. He's got a lot of experience. I talked to him at length after one of the meetings a couple months ago. He answered everything honestly. Our police commission is dysfunctional, and I'm here to support Chris on the police commission and to also beg him in the selection of the next chief to use a merit-based system. We want the best person on merit. I hope you approve him. And if I could just take 20 more seconds. we're having major problems in Waikiki. In the last 2 weeks, a man was pummeled in the bathroom of Ross. A couple days ago, a guy was beaten with a brick on Kuhio. Last week, one of our officers was hit in the head with a guitar and assaulted. I want to be honest with you. Waikiki is an open-air loony bin. We have, I can document it and give you names of all these people that have been arrested for a broader range of things, and they've gone to court, and they've been found mentally unfit for trial. And our beloved court system releases them back into the public. One guy, 13 times, 13. Others, many, many times. I don't think any of you people understand what is happening. It's a revolving door. HPD is doing their job. The prosecutor and our judges are dropping the ball. Nobody has the courage to come out against judges. But we can document. We take a small area of Waikiki and we
Mr. Gary.
document every crime.
Can you summarize for me, please? Thank you.
I invite every one of you at your convenience to come down to Waikiki and sit with me and watch what happens. I'll buy you lunch. We don't need to bring a bunch of cops with you or anything, just so you can experience what's happening where all our tourist dollars come from. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gary. Any questions for the testifier? All right, is there anyone else in the council chamber?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, we'll go on to remote testimony. Is there anyone? Okay, I do see a hand raised. Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Kyan. I hope I said that correct, too.
That's okay, Misakian, but that's fine.
Misakian.
Greg
All right.
Misakian.
Got
Aloha,
it.
Chair.
Misakian. Okay. Aloha.
Appreciate it. First of all, I'll be brief, and aloha to everybody there today. I testified earlier at the previous meeting you had. So I appreciate what Mr. Gary said. He's a very well-spoken person for the community. I see him often at Waikiki Neighborhood Board meetings, where I served also for 2.5 years as a Waikiki Neighborhood Board member. Today, I'm just speaking briefly as an individual, and I would like to ask this committee to please make sure you just kind of look at the full background. If Mr. Gary supports this person, then I support this person. But I would ask that you look at the background, and I did read something about his former position. I won't get into it here. I'll let you get to that, but missing meetings. So hopefully he's going to attend every commission meeting that he's able to. I realize sometimes we have extracurricular things that are family related or emergencies. So that's my concern. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the testifier? Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to testify remotely? Or do we have anyone?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to one more time speak in support of Mr. Magnus. Mr. Misakian, I would say that Shopo did dig thoroughly through his background, and they thoroughly vetted it out. And I do think that through that process, they were able to kind of see, right, we can only read so many things on the internet and assume so many things until we meet people face to face. So thank you for making yourself available. Mr. Gary, I will take your invitation and come and sit with you in Waikiki. You know, Chair, I think there's an unrest in the community about safety. We know we're in an interim police chief status. I'm also trying to work on a real clear plan for vacancies. I even wrote a public safety plan for my community because it's that important. So I'm just very grateful to the administration for this nomination. I'm hoping that the conversations we have at the commission level can be more pointed towards what the officers need and really analyzing how to make the department better? Because I would say that many people who attend the meetings don't feel like there's that specificity there, but it's probably because you need the background in order to ask those questions. So I'm looking forward to his participation. Thank you to the administration. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, good afternoon, Mr. Magnus. I still look forward to meeting with you one-on-one, so I hopefully we can schedule that soon. But just to kind of address the question that was posed online, because this is a voluntary position and we know that this will take a lot of time, you're not getting paid, and this commission specifically is one that's more high profile and more demanding. So if maybe you could just respond to the question, if those accounts were accurate and what you can commit to, knowing that this is a serious commitment that you're undertaking.
Thank you for the opportunity to respond. I'm not entirely sure where that information even came from, but looking back in my career, I have a hard time thinking of even one meeting that I did not attend. I've been fortunate, perhaps, in terms of family situations and other things, but just like voting, never missed an opportunity to vote, attending meetings, whether it was as a police chief or in any other capacity. I mean, I could stand corrected perhaps for one meeting or something, but that's just not accurate.
And if you were to continue in this position, you have no problems with the time commitments or any other?
No, absolutely not. I would not have been interested in this position if I thought that I could not make the necessary time commitments for it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Members, Councilmember Kiaina.
We're in discussion. Fully support the nomination, but for the administration, I know that you guys have a difficult task with regard to getting the necessary commission members on board as you look for a new police chief. As I've stated previously, I would like to see one of the next two nominees to have local law enforcement experience, if possible. I appreciate Mr. Magnus's background, but the fact remains that we do not have someone with local law enforcement experience, and I would like to see that. But I believe that Mr. Magnus would serve well with the other commissioners and do the city proud. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any more questions? Okay, I have one. Since we're talking about the police chief, if appointed, will you be involved? You'll be involved in the hiring of the new police chief for HPD. What do you consider the most important qualifications for this position?
Well, having been in a position where I was the chief applying for various positions, I can tell you I think there is one common theme that I've seen that is probably the most important no matter what the community. And that is somebody who is genuinely willing to learn and listen to not just community, not just elected officials, no offense, but also very importantly to their own members of the department. Sounds like it should be so simple sometimes, but it's easy for leadership, especially the higher you are in a department, to become so involved in so many other aspects of the job that you can sometimes lose sight of the importance of having that kind of communication within the agency that comes up and that comes back down. So I think one of the top priorities I would look for if having the opportunity to serve as a commissioner is somebody that has a record of that kind of communication, that type of broad-based engagement that covers, as I said, department, community, electeds, that goes the extra mile in doing those things and that really enjoys that. It has to be somebody, their heart has to be in it and their experience has to show it.
Thank you, Mr. Magnus. All right, anybody? Questions? All right. The chair recommends that resolution 25-200 be amended to the posted CD1 identified as OCS 2025-0660 8/19/2025 10:40 a.m. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservation? Okay, the resolution has been amended to CD1. The chair then recommends that resolution 25-200 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you, Mr. Magnus.
Mahalo. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 4, Bill 46, requiring the Honolulu Police Department to release certain public information to the media and to the public. Members, I propose a posted CD1 OCX 2025-029 at 9/15/2025 at 8:32 a.m. submitted by myself. For your information, the amendments are listed on the agenda. Members, the purpose of this bill is to strengthen the city's policy for releasing timely emergency and HPD-related information to both the media and the public. When our committee last reviewed this measure in July, we recognized valid legal safety and privacy concerns raised by HPD. At that time, we made a commitment to work collaboratively on amendments that would both address those concerns and improve transparency in how information is shared. Today, we are presenting a proposed committee draft 1, which includes several key amendments that I'd like to highlight. First, we've introduced a clear definition for real-time emergency alerts. These are text messages alerts that sent to local media to provide updates on incidents in progress. Under the proposed amendment, these alerts must be issued no later than 5 minutes after the relevant information is received, entered, or confirmed in the HPD communication system. The alerts will include essential details such as partial address, incident type, and crime classification. Second, the draft now gives HPD and the chief the flexibility to create a strategic plan in coordination with media outlets. This would allow either real-time emergency text alerts or real-time access to radio communications, depending on what's most feasible and effective. This option was not included in the original bill, and we believe it provides a workable path forward that could meet the needs of all stakeholders. Third, in response to concerns about potential violation of federal and state privacy laws, we've added clear language to ensure that no communication system covered by this bill may include any personal information that would violate current legal standards. Finally, to ensure that access to this HPD communications is granted only to established and credible news organizations, we strengthen the criteria for eligibility. We're updating the requirement from 10 years of publication or broadcasting experience to 25 years in operation. At the end of the day, our goal is to find a balanced solution, one that upholds transparency, protects individual privacy, and is practical for HPD to implement. With that, I'd like to welcome Major Paul Okimoto, who is here on behalf of HPD to share more about the department's perspective on the bill and the proposed amendments. Major?
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Paul Okamoto. I'm a major with the Honolulu Police Department. I'm here to speak about this bill on behalf of Interim Chief Vanek. Generally, I believe Chief Vanek has testified here stating that the Honolulu Police Department is in favor of transparency, but transparency should not inform without harm. And I believe that there's one aspect of this bill, and thank you very much for the text alert system. I believe that's a viable alternative to the release of our radio transmissions. But one thing that I would like you to consider is the sort of the prolongment of that grace period. I believe it's 5 minutes in this version of the bill. We would like to see it a little longer. I believe that we'd like to get the officers ample time to get to the scene, to assess what's going on, and to sort of handle the situation before before the media can get there. So that's one concern that I have. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer any of them.
Thank you, Major. Members, do you have any questions? Councilmember Tupola?
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Major. Quick question. So on the real-time emergency text alerts, you guys are asking for it to go from 5 minutes to what?
Currently, I believe the information is disseminated at a 15-minute delay online. This bill asks for 5 minutes. Perhaps there's a middle ground that we can reach.
And you guys ultimately would want it to be at what number?
I believe 10 minutes would be fair.
And then my other question was on page 3, it's talking about real-time radio communication. It says the immediate transmission of voice, data, or alert information from an HPD dispatcher or responding HPD officer in the field to authorized recipients occurring no more than 60 seconds after the occurrence, receipt or entry of the information into the HPD communications system. So that's different than the text alert.
Correct.
But
Yes.
60 seconds is amenable to you?
Well, 60 seconds is a bit short too. I believe this version of the bill allows us an option of using the text alert or the real-time communications, radio communications. We have been developing our text alert system. It is almost completed. We can say that it's working fairly. It's working pretty well. We're just testing it. So I believe that's a viable alternative to the release of the actual radio transmissions.
Okay, so I see the or in a letter B, number 1. However, if you do use the radio communications, what is the realistic time? Because 60 seconds is not realistic. What is the number that you think it should be at?
It is not viable. And for the sake of consistency, I probably 10 minutes would be much more viable option for us.
Yeah, because I don't know, Chair, where the numbers came from, but I do think for consistency, because we would have to explain how we came up with this. I didn't see this in any other state, so we don't really have legislation to model it after. But even though you have the or, I would want it to be something you guys could actually do, right? We don't want to pass laws that are suggestions but not doable. So
Yes.
you think that in 10 minutes you could get that out?
I think that's a much more viable solution rather than 60 seconds.
Okay, those are my 2 questions. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Members, any questions? Councilmember Chair Waters?
Thank you. Appreciate your comments today. So just to be clear, you're okay with the rest of the bill?
Yeah, the Honolulu Police Department, I think, is okay with, as Chief Vanek has stated previously, we really do feel the spirit of the bill, transparency, we're all in for that. And I believe the text alert system is the best way to enable that and to give that information to the media. And so as the bill is written currently, I think it's okay if we're allowed to use the text alert system in lieu of releasing our real-time radio communications.
Okay, because we really tried to address your concerns, HPD's concerns regarding the CGIS data and other privacy concerns that HPD expressed. But I do have a question regarding the Big Island. Apparently, they're still using analog. They haven't switched over to digital. And it appears that the media has access to that. And I haven't heard of any problems there. What's your take on that?
I don't know about the you're talking about Big Island. I'm not sure about the Big Island and what the procedures are. But if we're talking about the procedures with the Honolulu Police Department, we regularly broadcast personal information over the radio. And there would have to be, as Chief Vanek has testified before, there would have to be a large change in our operations and our policies to prevent that from happening. And I think it'll be overly onerous. And I think it'll affect public safety, actually. So I believe the text alert system is a viable alternative to the release of the real-time radio communications.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. May have some follow-up questions after we get the public testimony. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, now, Councilmember Okimoto.
Really quick, Chair. Thank you. Thank you for being here, Major Okamoto. I really, I had the same concerns with the timelines that you had answer to Councilmember Topola, if you could just explain with the 60 seconds, because in that time, the dispatchers, from what I understand, would have to redact information, because our concern initially was the private information of our officers or whoever's at the scene to get onto the public. So maybe if you could just explain to us what that would look like. If we're going to then, if this were to go out the way the media is hoping, and we have to remove the information, redact information, you're asking for 10 minutes, but what would be the process to do that that would keep everybody safe and information safe?
I think what would have to happen is that our officers would have to change to a separate channel that's not being released, just to disseminate the public information or the private information. And as Chief Vanek has testified previously, that would present a problem for our officers, especially when they're engaging with a possibly violent suspect. And so we don't really see that as a viable alternative. It would be overly onerous for us.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we will now proceed with in-chamber testimony. I first have Jason Hagiwara from KITV, followed by Le Koholakula.
Aloha City Council Public Safety Committee. It's always interesting to hear the police leaders speak, and then you kind of have to adjust your testimony appropriately because you don't want to be repetitive or address the issue. Because at this point, it sounds like they're very comfortable with the bill, with the exception of the timeline. One thing I would want to add, and my written testimony was submitted, but I'd like to kind of talk about so if we're talking about real time and what defining that is one thing, and that's still a path that the committee needs to work through. I would talk about the redaction component of what we're talking about and what information actually would be transferred to the public media. In my mind, what that looks like is all the information that's on the scanner, less any personally identifiable information, including also the address or the specific location of where the incident is occurring, description of the incident, whether it's a shooting, overturned gas truck, or diverted roads from a fire, or any other imminent safety concern. But I'm very happy to hear that we're closer than we were, I think, the last time in terms of both the police department and the media working together to get this legislation moving. Thank you.
Members, any question? Councilmember Chair Waters.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony today. I appreciate you and your colleagues being here. Just want to clarify, are you asking that we include more information, or the HPD include more information in the text alerts?
So if we're talking about the scanner being the most efficient way to distribute information in terms of what's going on in terms of from a public safety standpoint.
Right.
And the only concern in that regard was the personally identifiable information. My thought would be everything that's being shared on the scanner from a details perspective, less the PII, would still be acceptable from the police department standpoint. That's kind of only going based upon the original concern that they had.
Okay, and in trying to draft a bill that's acceptable to both sides, it was kind of difficult,
of course,
to be honest. But so there's the partial, we're dealing with emergency text alerts, and we might want to change that from real time to timely, because it really isn't real time.
True.
But partial address, incident type, crime classification, general description of the reported incident, and other first responders responding, whether it be fire, ambulance, or whatnot. I guess what I'm asking, is there anything else do you think that would be helpful, while considering that we're trying to make sure we don't violate privacy laws or the CJIS data laws that were cited at the last hearing?
I don't think so. And just to address an earlier concern, I know this is sort of like selling past the close, as they say in our business, but in terms of I can understand, we don't want to be interrupting the operation of the police department. We believe that they have the responsibility to handle and control the situation and bring it back to peace or some kind of order, at least as quickly as they can. So our job is not to, or it's not our intention to be in the way, if that makes any sense. I can't think in the 30 years in where the public scanner information was public, or at least actually anybody could listen to it who had a scanner. I can't think of any major situation or reported situation where media got specifically in the way of the active police investigation or situation. Moreover, I think from a media employer, we have a responsibility to care for our reporters and our anchors in the field, and we don't want them in harm's way. So we would be as far back from the yellow line as possible, or at least, you know, figure out if the situation, our employees are told be safe first at the end of the day. So.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Questions? Okay. Up next is Le Koholakula.
Aloha kako, Chair, Vice Chair, and Council members. For the record, Le'u'i Kaholakula with KITV4 Island News. Just to clarify, I understand there are concerns about the information that gets put out. But as journalists, we use the information that we hear on these text alerts and on these scanners as leads and as not fact. And it's our job to go and verify this information. And I do want to take a moment to read a little bit of my testimony that I submitted online. We've seen how delayed information can cause confusion and a gap in communication when we operate in the dark, putting public awareness and safety at risk. We understand and we respect the Honolulu Police Department's concerns about officer safety, victim privacy, and the potential for misinformation, and these are valid issues in the evolving media and digital landscape. Now, as responsible journalists, we are trained to carry out the necessary processes to verify information before it's shared with the public, and I do want to say that it's done with a cautious approach. We most often err on the side of caution. We're not asking for unrestricted access to information. We're asking for a seat at the table to find a solution, and I believe we're getting there. A solution that supports transparency, protects sensitive information, and serves the people of Hawaii, because I think we can all agree at the end of the day, a well-informed public is a safer public, and that's a goal that we all share. Mahalo.
Any questions for the testifier? Okay, thank you. Up next is from Hawaii News Now, Brenda Salgado.
Hello. Aloha kako, Council. My testimony is all thrown because of what was what was said before. So I'm just going to highlight some of the things. What we're dealing with right now is the delay of information coming out of HPD. I want to recognize the effort that the PIO team is doing, putting out releases, but it's still after the fact. And we're not getting things in real time. Now we're talking about the text alerts, but we've been talking about this for a year and a half. We're getting closer, but you know, the information that we need is probably not going to be on there. You know, I mean, we need basic information to tell us what's going on. The delay, the 15-minute delay is not good. You know, 5 minutes, maybe 1 minute, or just real time is even best. So we're still far apart. Minutes count, seconds count for breaking news. It could mean life or death, and it could mean the public at risk. It's still not clear, and we still gotta nail this down. on what we are going to receive. I've been doing this for a long time, listening to the scanners, knowing what to pick out, knowing if it's a big event and how to handle it, how to deploy, and how to even call HPD and saying, hey, we know about this, and we're heading to the scene. What can you tell me? So there is communication. We're not being irresponsible. We do work with them. Reverting back to the scanner system is what we need. And from there, I think we can still work together, the two agencies, and get the job done and keep the public safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Okay, we'll move on.
Chair, can I ask the question?
Sure.
Ms. Salgado, real briefly, kind of similar to what Chair Waters asked, there's 5 things listed: partial address, incident type, crime classification, general description of incident, other first responders responding to the incident. So in the list, what do you think is missing?
We just need, where this is happening, addresses, who's going, because it will determine how big the event is.
So
and
that
how
was
to
number 5 and number 1.
Yeah.
So aside from the address and who's going, what else?
address meaning how many people are being deployed, if there's multiple officers or agencies.
Okay. Actually, I think the number is actually reasonable, because obviously if they're deploying like 12 HPD vehicles as opposed to one guy to the scene, different, right? Okay, I'll write that down. We'll bring it up in discussion. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Wait.
Okay.
Sorry.
Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you. I don't know if I missed it. Did anyone ask you about the time that was being proposed for the text alerts and the radio communications at 10 minutes as opposed to 5 minutes and 60 seconds respectively for text alerts and then radio communications? So are you open to the 10 minutes?
No, we need it to be less.
Okay, so if there's concerns and the bill doesn't pass because of that time frame, you're willing to not have the bill pass because of
No,
the time
we want the
frame?
bill to pass, but if we can lessen it, that would be great.
Okay, you're forcing us then to broker between yourselves and the Honolulu Police Department. Is that what you're asking us? Because the HPD just proposed 10 minutes for each. Are you having us be put in the spot to broker between yourselves and HPD?
I guess we could live with that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, let's move on. KHON, Christina Lockwood.
Hello, everyone. So I just want to mention on Tuesday at 5 a.m. in Waikiki, there was a man who was assaulted, and he wasn't arrested. He was on the loose, and we didn't know about it, but we did get an alert about it at about noon. So to me, just as a resident here, there could have been people in Waikiki that could have been at risk because this person was on the loose. If he assaulted someone, he could have assaulted someone else. We could have sent a push alert. We could have warned the public. We didn't do that. It doesn't seem like anything bad happened after the initial assault, but it reminds me of how having real-time communication would make such a difference for us to be able to help. And our goal really is we want to work with HPD. We're excited to be discussing this, and we definitely feel and we're grateful for the fact that they're talking to us and trying to collaborate. I think where KHON is and where we feel we're concerned is it just seems that we're kind of far apart on the timing and also on the information. So we asked them yesterday in an email what the intent was with the alerts. And we got back some interesting information, which I wasn't sure. So I just want to kind of read this to you. And basically, I'll just read you excerpts. So this came to our newsroom from HPD. Our leadership team has just had a productive meeting with our IT folks last week, and we received the report on the strides they have made. The text alerts have pivoted to a more robust alert system that is much more user-friendly. We're also investing in redaction software that is showing good results in our beta testing. I'm very happy with the beta testing we're seeing, blah, blah, blah. And then from there, we asked, well, can you tell us more about this and what kinds of alerts they are? And the response was, the new alert system has pivoted from text to an MS Teams delivery. And then we had also asked them, what cases are you sending to us? And it said, cases we are pulling from were informed by what individual outlets previously shared that they would be interested in receiving: aggravated assault, bomb threats, homicide, rape, robbery vehicles taken, sexual assault, weapons, and kidnapping. So I just, commenting on those things, the MS Teams delivery, like, I don't know if you guys use MS Teams, but some people use MS Teams. I personally don't like MS Teams, so I don't want MS Teams. We thought we were working towards a alert system that was very similar to the fire department alert system, which is in real time and which provides text alerts to like 5 people in our newsroom. So it's not going to the whole newsroom. So that concerns me, that they're pivoting to a different format that may or may not be as user-friendly for us as it is for them. And then the other thing is just, no one ever asked us what cases we wanted, and we want everything. We want to be able to decide what is important. So, you know, and maybe there's a whittle down of that, but if those are the only things we're getting, then, you know, I just would love to have some more conversation about that. And then this morning with the major's testimony, you know, they talked about arriving at the scene and having a heads up before the media. I'll just tell you, as an employer, we do not want any of our reporters or photographers arriving at any scene before the police get there. We are very concerned with safety and our employees' safety. So there's no way that we want them there. And if they did get there, I know for a fact that our people have more sense than to try to investigate before police do anything. So, you know, I just think that from our side, we want to do a good job. We want to work well with everyone. But we really need the information, and I think that there is a viable solution here, but we have to also trust each other and know that we're working together for the good of the community, and that's our intent.
Okay, thank you. A question for the testifier. Councilmember Tupolo.
Thank you. Aloha, thank you for your specificity. Quickly, who are you communicating with at HPD who said MS Teams? PIO person?
Yes, someone in that department, a higher level person.
So in the last meeting we had, I think Chief Vanek said that they were going to try to, you know, prior to the bill pass, try to improve their system. So I'm guessing that's what it is, but I don't want any MS Teams alerts. So I think that's still negotiable. I'm guessing they're just checking things out. I think that after this, hopefully after this bill passes, you guys and their PIO should like work things out, because I think the specificity of how you're receiving, we're not going to codify that into law. But if that's not working, then we got to get something that's working. In the incident that you referred to in Waikiki, what was the duration of the gap from when it happened?
It happened at 5 a.m. and the alert came at noon.
Okay, that's a huge gap.
Yes.
7 hours. Okay, so definitely the 7-hour gap, not safe for anybody.
Correct.
So thank you for bringing that up. And I think your last comment about it being broad, meaning that you want all of the different cases as opposed to just picking and choosing which one, it's a good comment. And I think something that we should work out with you guys and their PIO is if only 5 people in the newsroom are getting this text alert, or however you described it, then it's not like we're sending the whole entire news station, you know, because there's so many different incidents a day. Then
Right.
You're saying that the 5 who get it would then decide what to disseminate. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I believe that's how it works for the Honolulu Fire Department.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think on my side, I wouldn't mind having a meeting with you guys and them, because we're not going to specify which ones you get, which ones you don't. I think this bill is actually suggesting you guys get it all. So I think we should just make sure to clarify it with them, because we're not going to write that inside here. They will only get these alerts. Like, we're saying that you will get all the alerts. So I think apart from the email you got, we'll try to clarify that with them.
Can I mention one other thing, the redaction software? So I don't know what that means, if it's just redacting private information, that's totally fine. We don't need the private information. We don't want the private information. But the address is super important. So, you know, I don't know if they're planning to give us, oh, it's on Kapiolani Boulevard. Okay, but where on Kapiolani Boulevard? Do you know what I'm saying? So if we just would love just more information. So it's not like we're going on a wild goose chase. And again, we don't want to get in anyone's way. But if that is an option, that would be our preference, to have a physical address.
At the conclusion of the testimonies, I'll ask HPD, because I also read number 1 and I thought, what is it gonna say? Kalihi? Like, yeah. Can it be, you know, too broad? But I don't know what the specificity will be. I'll ask. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Lockwood.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Is there anyone else in the chamber that'd like to testify? Okay, I see Mr. Gary.
Yeah, Augie, thanks for bringing this forward. I kind of agree with this bill, but I also would like to state the news media is a little lazy in Hawaii. The incident that happened on Kuhio at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm not a reporter. I knew about it at 7:30 a.m. Not through HPD, just through my contacts. You all have tip lines where you have people call in crimes, right? And then maybe you act on them, maybe you don't. I'll bring up one case in point. Last New Year's, when the guy was doing the chase around the island, shooting, boom, 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 boom. I was watching football. Not one of your stations came on and alerted the public that was going. It was my roommate's girlfriend on Instagram. Are you guys signed up with Instagram, any of you news stations? We followed the chase all the way around the island on Instagram until it came down to where they came right down my street, shooting. We took cover behind our trucks. I never saw the news breaking news, but a lot of people on Instagram were following it. So I'd like the HPD to be a team with them, but you guys need to pull your weight too. When I turn on the news, why do you always run the exact same stories? Boom, boom, boom. Switch the channel. You're still doing the same story as the other channel. It's like you're a collective. Why don't you break out, get independent, do some investigating? That's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gary. Any questions for the testifier? Okay. Anyone else in the chamber that wants to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, let's move on to online remote testimony. Okay, look like I see several people. Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Aloha, council members. I apologize, I can't be there in person. I'm on deadline. You know, earlier it was brought up about the Big Island Police Department, and they're still using scanners. The Maui Police Chief, they're still doing it as well. The Maui Police Chief, Chief Pelletier, told us that they have both encrypted and encrypted scanners, and they can flip the switch. You know, they say that they're not going to change that. They have no plans of changing that because there's more public trust like that when they are transparent. We need the real-time, user-friendly way of doing this. We've had scanners for years. I've been doing this for 30 years now. I've been in the news business for 30 years. This is the first time I'm testifying before any council because I feel this is such an important topic. And like Christina Lockwood said, you know, I remember that Waikiki incident, and yes, I was told about it from sources, but we waited 5 hours to get any official information. And the fatal accidents this past week, there was some with a 20-minute delay that closed the North Shore JPL in both directions. And it was a 20-minute delay from the time I got notified from sources to the time that we were officially told what was going on. The need for the real-time information is really important. And when you talk about these text alerts, right now we're getting things, you know, like suspicious circumstances. One of those was a murder with someone on the loose, and suspicious circumstances is just not going to cut it.
Thank you, Ms. Kawano. Any questions for the testifier? Thank you. Okay, I do see Gregory Misakayan online. Misakian?
Aloha.
Close. Right?
Misakian, you got it.
I'm getting close. I know I am.
You're fine. Aloha again, Chair and members of this committee. First of all, I support Bill 56. I hate that I only have 1 minute to speak, or maybe slightly over. You're giving a little bit of leeway, but I will say this. We have some of the major media stations here today. For those who are aware of the Kunia Road fires and Haleiwa fires, there's a gentleman that used to work at my condo association in maintenance, and you've done a lot of reporting. HPD has done news briefings. HFD, I believe, also has done some briefings. And I've done a lot of research, so I have very little time to say this, but in my research and analysis of the complaint and the allegations, there's no there. But you've villainized a kapuna, a 70-year-old man, in the media, and I will share more with all stations. I've reached out to all of the stations. In fact, I've asked for a callback from one I haven't received yet. I would like to speak to every news station producer or director, news director there, and I would hope that going forward, HPD, which still has misinformation, and every news outlet which still continues to put out misinformation, looks and verifies their stories, looks at the data. You're talking about getting data and trying to get to a story and getting out quick and worrying about privacy, but you're actually harming people where you've got plenty of time to look at the data and you're still misreporting. And even when someone like myself calls, I'm just going to end right here. When someone like myself calls in, and I serve on multiple boards in the state, and I tell you the information you have is wrong, you still misreport it again and again. Shame on all of you. I'm just going to say, I don't mean to say that disrespectfully. Shame on all of you. Please look at internally what your procedures are. I'd like to speak to every news director. I have spoken to the KITV news director, where I told him, you called this person arsonist. You put it as arsonist under his photo. Thank you very much for that opportunity. I hope we can share more on this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions for the testifier? Councilmember Tupola.
Aloha, thank you for participating today. Real quick for clarification, you kind of went from HPD to news stations. Who are you saying is doing the misreporting?
All of the above. So if you go to the HPD website, there's a story dated August 27th. Ironically, I was in the studio with KITV News on August 27th with Brickwood Galateria shooting an episode of Kapuna Power. I serve as president of Kokua Council. I came home to get a text from someone saying, your maintenance manager's been arrested for arson. And, since then, I've done a lot of back and forth. But the news stories, everyone, Hawaii News Now, actually that evening I went to go out, and Ali'i Duklo was at the front of my building. It was the eve of my birthday, and I was being taken out for dinner, and he was there to do a story. I told him before he did the story, don't believe what you're told. There's some misconduct going on in my building, and they're falsely accusing someone who's reporting concerns about DPP, permits, illegal gambling, valid. I serve as a director on my association.
Sorry,
also, I know
I'm just gonna see if I can get the answer. So in that specific incident of arson, who misreported? HPD put it on their website wrong, or the news did it?
All of the above. So he was only alleged to have called, without any evidence, like a witness or anything, alleged to have caused one fire. They've said 2 fires on a regular basis, even recently, 2 fires. So they're saying 2 fires or possibly more. Okay. Then they're linking him into stories with the rum. I can't remember the name of the property. It's, there's another location. But he's got a reason to even be there on property. He's part of, he's on property for the Kunia.
Thank you. I got the answer, but I will ask the follow-up question when the time's appropriate. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much for that opportunity.
All right. Is there anyone else that want to testify remotely?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Tupola.
Again for HPD, please. Can you help me? Is it assistant chief or major?
Major Paulo
Okay.
Dumoto.
I heard someone say assistant chief and I was like, man, did I just demote him? Hello, major. Okay, here's the follow-up questions from everybody. So they're asking what is going to be included in number 1, partial address?
So partial address will be limited. I believe the last couple digits will be redacted. So to a reasonable degree, you will be able to know the general location. It'll have the street name and probably down to the block. You'll know the location specifically.
Okay. And then another question, follow-up question is on number 5 under real-time emergency text alerts. Would HPD be willing to, if the chair is amenable, to change the word other to number of first responders responding to the incident? I kind of see some reason in that.
Sure. I would have to check to see how we could do that. As you know, this is going to be an automated system. And so
Right. I'm just saying that because I was driving through Waikiki on my way to get here just like a half an hour ago, and there's 20 police cars on one street. To me, I can see for the news reporters if 20 are being, dispatched to a location versus one person is going to go check out a sketchy incident.
Of course. You know that it's a big deal if everyone is going to it. I understand that. Just from a technical standpoint, I think I'd have to check with our professionals on that to see how viable that would be for the program to actually.
And then follow-up question, would your PIO be willing to get together, or do you guys call her communications director?
Communications director, correct.
Would your communications director be willing to have meetings with them about the specificity of this process? Because we're not going to go through it today.
Yeah, I believe we can set up those meetings, and we've actually had roundtable meetings. I think that was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but we definitely would like to have more conversations with them.
Okay, that'd be great. Lastly, multiple times when we speak with you guys, there's various spokespersons. Is there any way we could get clarity on that? Because say, for example, with this, I know you know a lot, but I think it might have been good if the communications director was here. But how do you guys choose who speaks for HPD per se? Is it just who's available or who's over it? Could you just clarify for me?
I think generally, I work for the chief's office. I do know a little bit about this bill. I've been involved with it since the beginning. So I think it was only natural that in Chief Vanek's absence that I come in and testify about it. But certainly we can involve other persons, and we're open to having conversations with the media.
So sometimes when we have directors come, they bring their department staff, right? If we're talking about something that maybe the director doesn't know, or in this case, Chief Vanek can't be here, I understand that. I think really for the continuity of HPD, your communications director and you guys have significantly bumped up what you guys are doing with communications. Thank you. It's like some of the first times I've ever heard about game room bus the day it happens. Now you guys are releasing it, right? I think that respectfully, if you can have your communications person be here, if she's available, we want to get this whole thing right. You know, Councilmember Waters and Tulba are just trying to get all of our comms going good. And I'm sure that's very related to our informational briefing today, our communications in the city. So if and when possible, if she can attend, I think it would be advantageous for her to hear the conversation, seeing as though she's kind of guiding the different stories that are coming out of your department, if that's okay.
Understood.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you. Just as a follow-up with her line of questioning, Councilmember Topola's, I also believe that in bringing your communications director, you need to give her some latitude in being able to answer questions, because this is a big issue for the authors and both for the media. And as such, they should be able to hear directly on how it's being implemented. I understand chain of command. We all do that. But I think I mentioned it the last time when you guys were presenting on something, and then this is something clearly relevant for her, and she should be here, but not just to be sitting behind you, but you need to give her the opportunity to be able to ask questions with regard to the implementation of your overall media strategy.
Yeah, thank you for that question. We fully intended on having our communications director attend today, but she had a prior obligation at the training academy and wasn't able to come today. But definitely, yeah, we'll take that under advisement.
Okay, members, any more questions? Okay, so this is what I recommend. If this was to pass out today, and go to third reading next week, based on the discussion today, I think we still have some things to address on the bill. So I do think we should work on some more clarifying amendments. So I'm going to recommend that we amend to a CD1 and then postpone action. Is that okay? Everybody cool with that? And we can work on it and hopefully come back and get this thing finally taken care of. Councilmember?
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate how you explained what the CD1 does. I'm an advocate for real-time disclosure and giving media access to the scanners. But this CD1 really was a compromise. And I think we're so close, so close. May I just ask the media, though, if we were to further amend the CD to say that you get the entire address, not just partial address, and then you get how many, and we require how many officers are deployed, specifically in the bill. To me, when I read, it says emergency text alerts. To me, it is text. I don't see how HPD can use the MS Teams. I agree with Councilmember Tupola. I don't like MS Teams either. To me, the bill's pretty clear. You get text. The only issue, really, other than that, unless you tell me differently, would be the time, right? The bill says 5 minutes. They want 15. They're willing to come down to 10. If the media is okay with everything I'm saying, we're done. Or if you'd rather come back, as the chair is suggesting, and we further discuss, give you guys the opportunity to further discuss with HPD to try to hone it down even better. I think the chair is open to that, yeah?
Yeah. Councilmember Kiana.
May I ask the media that real quick? What's your preference?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. The only other thing I wanted to qualify in terms of the subset of what Christina had mentioned earlier about the subset, if it's going to be all the information as opposed to the categories and classifications of incident. That was the only other question, because.
But if it's all the incidents,
correct.
You're okay with what HPD is suggesting, what I just suggested?
Yes.
Rather than a postponement? Or do you prefer the postponement? And honestly, I do want to hear from the other council members, because I think we're so close, so close. We may even get Councilmember Okimoto on board.
I think it's, Councilmember Tupola also said, let's get it right. So maybe a postponement makes the most sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we have Lynn Kawano with her hand raised. I think you want to answer the question?
Yeah, I actually think we need to keep working on this. I think 10 minutes is very long. That's a long time. If somebody is on the loose, if there's a gunman on the loose, there's a tsunami set, if there's a wildfire, if there is anything going on, 10 minutes is a very long time, and that could mean the difference between life or death. I can't see 10 minutes as being reasonable. I think we need to talk about it a little bit more. Other agencies are willing to make this work with encrypted and non-encrypted. I also know that there's another police department in my old station. I spoke to some of them in Dallas today to get some background on this. And what they're doing is they're getting access to the CAD system, not all of the CAD system, but they're getting the initial call, which has the address, It has how many officers are responding, what agencies are responding, and a brief description, whether it's gunshots, a shooting, you know, something along those lines, a little bit more specific, and that's in real time. I don't understand why we cannot come to some agreement like that. If we keep working on it, I think that's possible.
Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, Chair Waters, for your thoughts. I do also think that I don't know if more conversation is going to get us to more of a compromise, because I think we're at the compromise right now. HPD is not opposing it. That's great. We want you guys to not oppose it. We know that that is actually the primary source of information, so we do have to consider that. I think I'll make a motion. We'll see what happens. It's up to you, Chair. It's your committee, but I'm going to make the motion just because I think I agree with Chair Waters. I think we could beat this thing to death, or we can just move on. So I'm going to make a motion that we change 5 minutes in real-time text alerts to 10, strike the word partial, strike the word other to number of first responders, strike 60 seconds to 10 minutes, and then we're done.
Okay, I would love to hear what everyone else has to think. Okay.
I second that motion.
Okay. Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much. I really appreciate the discussion. I think a lot of the concerns I had initially coming into this hearing have been addressed. I did have one other issue that I didn't hear brought up, and that was pertaining to the years. So I saw that there was a decrease. Concerns about the proposed language that changes the local media requirements from 10 to 25 years. For example, Hawaii News Now shared services agreement has only existed since 2009, and Honolulu Civil Beat was founded in 2010. So this amendment, if we continue on with the discussion, I didn't hear anything to pertain to that. I know the other issues I had with the 60 seconds that's been addressed, I believe, and the 5 minutes to 10 minutes. But that was another thing that I didn't hear. I would like to continue more discussion, but I'm just one in this body. So I agree that we don't want to beat this thing unnecessarily, but I also don't like to rush and get things into ordinance that are not sound.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Nishimoto.
Chair, just so I understand what we're doing procedurally. So we have your CD1 on the floor. We have a proposal to further amend your CD1 by Councilwoman Tupola, and we'd consider that total CD1 and then vote to put that into the underlying bill?
Correct, but we need to still get this thing right correctly, and there's a lot more things that we need to do.
After you adopt the CD1, you'll defer decision-making on the underlying bill,
Yes.
correct? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm following the discussion here. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna postpone, guys. Because there's some things that we still need to clear up, and then we'll get this. I think we're close, like you said. I think we're really close. So we're gonna postpone this, and defer, and then come back and with something. Hopefully, the media will love, and we all can, swallow and be happy. Okay. So I'm just gonna read it. Okay, the chair recommends that Bill 46, 2025 be amended to a posted CD1 identified as OCS 2025-729-915-2025 at 8:30 a.m. and be further amended to incorporate the additional amendments discussed today. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservation? The bill has been amended to a CD1. The chair recommends that the bill on action on Bill 46, 2025 CD1 be postponed to a date and time to be determined by the committee chair. Any discussion? Any objections? Any reservation? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you, guys. We'll get this right. Okay, media? All right. Okay. All right. It's time for some informational briefing, guys. Item number 5. And I know a lot of people are online watching, and a lot of people have questions. So, informational briefing, July 20, 29, 2025 Tsunami Advisory Review and Response. We have the Department of Emergency Management, Honolulu Police Department, Honolulu Fire Department, Honolulu Emergency Service Department, Honolulu Ocean Safety Department, the Department of Transportation, and here from the administration, Director of the Emergency Management, Randall Collins.
Aloha, council members. Thank you for hosting this briefing. Before we start, I think it's important to note that the after-action analysis process is still ongoing with various stakeholders and meetings scheduled even deep into October, being that it's, was a multi-jurisdictional incident. State was involved as well as us, and obviously island-wide. It's sometimes difficult to get a lot of the stakeholders together and fully analyze all the various issues. We also have secured a contractor to provide an independent third-party report, and so that process is ongoing with the contractor. I'd also like to say that emergency management doesn't magically make things that are normally a problem better during an incident. It just helps to navigate the community through the incident and the added problems that come with situations such as the tsunami of July 29th. And what we know in emergency management is that the problems that already exist on a normal day are only amplified on a disaster day. Do we have the PowerPoint up? Is that what's happening? Yeah, it's usually up. Have a thing. Are we in? Oh, but this is in PDF mode. So let's go to the next slide, please. Sorry for that. So first I'd like to really just talk about mission accomplishment. And basically, my hat's off to all of the responding agencies, all the city agencies that were involved in this particular incident. And when we talk about the things that we wanted to do, which are move people into safe zones before the first expected impacts, ensure the public is aware of the threat, and move life-saving resources into safe zones, those things were accomplished before the 7:10 expected first impacts of the tsunami. And this is very difficult, and I'll actually indicate some of the planning factors that go into that in a minute. But more importantly, with respect to these particular objectives, ensuring the public is aware of that threat, I don't think that anybody on Oahu didn't know about the tsunami that day. And that is a huge congratulations to the alerting and warning system that we've put together and that we've also shared with the federal government in terms of the what we call wireless emergency alerts, the emergency broadcasting system, and our own H&L alerts. So the fact that we could communicate that so significantly was key, and the fact that we could get our responders through some of that traffic that I know we're going to talk about as well, to get the critical life-saving resources out of the impact area so that it could be prepared for what could have been a life-saving response, none of which many of our responders have ever seen in their careers if the impacts have been worse. But to get those critical resources out of the area and prepared to respond after the impacts was key. So it was a success for several reasons, but some of the key reasons were fast and frequent communication, and that was communication from the Department of Emergency Management to the supporting agencies to the coordination that the Emergency Operations Center provides from agency to agency, and the communication from DEM and the mayor's communication staff to the public was continuous. Also, the communication from the City and County of Honolulu to HIEMA and other state agencies was also very constant. In fact, we were pretty much on an open bridge with them during the entire event. All of that was a result of effective leadership, and it was demonstrated by the direction flowing from the mayor all the way down to the rank and file city worker. Police officers, EMTs, bus drivers, the firefighters, all the engaged services providing city resources knew the objectives and pursued them earnestly. The leadership also resulted in an effective teamwork that we saw as our resources achieved the goals and accomplished that mission. So while it was a success, we acknowledge that there is much that we can learn from our experience and improve upon next time. As an organization with a growth mindset, we will continue to seek those solutions and update our plans accordingly. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. I did want to, as I mentioned, I did want to kind of share some of the complications that we have in terms of tsunami planning and what we call planning factors. And first and foremost, I know that there's a lot of concern about the amount of information regarding tsunamis and where tsunami is going to impact us on Oahu. And unfortunately, we just don't have, the science just isn't there yet. We know that there was an earthquake, we know that it was large, we know that there could be a tsunami wave, we don't know to what size, and we don't know to where its impacts will eventually lead. And even if there is a significant earthquake, we also have concerns about wraparound effects on the island. So it very well could impact the entire island. So while I wish we had a lot more information, unfortunately the science just doesn't support that as of today. And I certainly would love that information to help our planning efforts as well. We also have short-term, short-distance tsunamis which leave little warning. 30 minutes to an hour is the window, and that's about the amount of time you could actually even spend in your shower getting ready in the morning, away from your phone and that sort of thing. A short distance tsunami could impact us, and that kind of response would require immediate attention, alerting and evacuation, versus a long-distance tsunami, which brings hours of notice, sometimes up to 11. And with that amount of time, people choose to finish activities, drive home, pick up children, top off their gas even. Those choices load the same roads responders need to open those roads and creates delayed clearance in the zones that we need to be evacuated. So on July 29th, the clock was about 4.5 hours. Many heard that number and didn't go directly to safe areas. They headed home or focused on other activities, and this contributed to that gridlock. Long and short distance tsunamis call for entirely different plans, which adds to the dynamic nature of tsunami planning. So, you know, it's really hard to even know which plan we're going to go with, and so that's a significant factor. The next factor is the timing of a tsunami. The tsunami warning can hit at rush hour, as it did in this case, or at 2 a.m. in the morning. And each hour of the day changes the human behavior and reshapes the model of what tsunami response should look like. And some of that could be very significant changes, and some of that could be very subtle. We cannot build 24 separate playbooks, though, based on each hour of the day. So that's another challenge in tsunami planning. And tsunamis are no-notice events. Emergency management typically uses what we call triggers to launch emergency plans. Because tsunamis have a variability between watches and warnings, which meaning that a watch can flip to a warning in about 10 minutes or over several hours, and warnings can last 3 hours or up to 8 hours. So this spread disrupts the emergency management's ability to utilize, fixed assets. What we, start to checklist off the things that we have to do, but because those triggers vary, we're not as dependent on checklists, or we can't utilize checklists the way that we'd like to. Also, because of this no notice and variability that tsunamis have, it affords no opportunity for pre-positioning or assigning of our resources. And this includes traffic officers, shelter workers, or definitive bus routes. These are just a few examples, and I would even bring up more of, I think we heard a lot about the traffic. It definitely inhibits our ability to get police officers to traffic control points and that sort of thing, because we have no idea when or where these officers are going to be when this particular warning comes out. It'd be a little bit like playing football but not having any formations and people just being anywhere on the field when the play starts. And so that's very difficult for us to deal with from an emergency management standpoint. And so we have to evaluate that on the fly and on what and where our resources are, and then adjust those resources in real time and execute from there. In long-distance tsunamis, such as the one on July 29th, there is no common direction for evacuation. People are going to different locations. They just choose to do that. Our best efforts are focused on moving them out of tsunami inundation areas and discouraging them from entering those particular areas. And so we're giving more of go out of a particular area rather than going to a point location. And that's for the purposes of trying to minimize that gridlock that we experience. Also, with regards to our particular island, Kamehameha Highway, Farrington Highway, and Kalaniana Ole highways present a challenge as they are on the coast, and both directions need to remain open until the last possible moment. While at the same time, if an incident on those particular highways occurs, it can inhibit movement and evacuation of the citizens while providing few alternatives or options to the commuters on those highways. So that's a big challenge for us. So unlike other types of incidents, this is an island-wide incident, which means there is limited ability to shift police, fire, EMS, transportation resources from one district to another, or from one side of the island to the other. And so that creates another problem where we aren't able to surge our particular resources to support the ongoing operations. And finally, I think resource shortage is the definition of a crisis or an emergency. The reason we have a housing crisis is a lack of affordable homes, and the reason that we have strained medical systems is the lack of medical providers, practitioners, and hospital space. The second there's a tsunami watch, we are already short critical resources, and the shortage is multiplied by a warning. In emergency management, we call this a critical resource curve. The crisis or emergency will continue until we are able to obtain and employ enough resources to meet the demands of that particular incident. Moving on to the next slide. So when it comes to options during an incident, plans and decisions must be supported by the resources. So if we don't have the resources, depending on the resource need, it takes time and money to acquire them and get those to the resources in place. So the decisions that we have to make have to be able to be resourced, otherwise it's not really a viable option. And that comes key into looking at some of the road patterns and the private access roads and that sort of thing that we have to deal with. In addition to the limited resources, there is minimal time in a tsunami incident to recall some of those resources. We can't just put out an all call and get all of our resources reactivated. They're all stuck in the gridlock traffic. They're all put in out of position as well. So getting resources recalled becomes a lot more difficult as well. And those are just some of the highlights of the wicked problem that a tsunami presents for this type of incident. And so with that, we'll move into the next slide. Oh, wait. One slide back. Sorry, Molly. So our incident objectives, as you can see here, are obviously the protection of life. That's always number one. We want to also, I need my glasses, prioritize access in terms of the functional needs and the schools and the vulnerable people. Luckily on this one, schools were not open, but were not in session. But and then direct control traffic in and out of the danger areas is another key objective of our of the overall operation, and deliver clear and consistent public messaging, as I mentioned before. as well as hold evacuees until all clear. So we want to keep people, once they're clear, keep them still in the clear areas until we get the all clear from the National Weather Service. We want to prepare for those search and rescue operations that are going to happen should this incident gone into heavy impacts from an actual tsunami. And then we want to support mass care and family reunification, again, after the incident, if we had a lot of damage. And then obviously we have to demobilize those resources once we get them into place. So those are the overall objectives that all of the city was engaged in. Next slide, Molly, please. As I mentioned, in terms of an overview, this was about a 4.5 hour kind of warning notification. So we got the earthquake off the coast of Russia at about 1:25. Tsunami was pretty much immediately issued by the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. And then our EOC jumps into action immediately following that. And that's key. I think that's something that we've learned in the past and have adjusted our plans for that, knowing that we only get one chance to get that EOC activated and bringing the resources in before that warning comes about. At 1:37, we issued our first H&L alert regarding the tsunami watch. And then at 2:43, the tsunami warning was issued, which also really then starts to trigger a lot of the wireless emergency alerts and the emergency broadcast system information and the sirens being activated. Following those protocols, we had, we then responded. I think you're going to hear from the emergency response agencies and their actions that they took all the way until obviously in the 10:39 timeframe when we finally got the all clear from the National Weather Service and H&L alert indicating as such of cancellation, and then our EOC was activated at about midnight. And so that was pretty much a very broad overview timeline of the overall incident going on. And this is one slide that we wanted to share that we think is very key in telling the story of communications and how well they work. In the shaded pink area is when we started to see spikes in the 911 system and the 911 calls. And then right there at the peak is when we were able to get on TV, hold our public news briefing, and then we see immediate decline of 911 calls after the mayor spoke and followed by all the response agencies. So really shows the effect that we have in terms of public messaging when we can get out there effectively. Moving on. And from there, I'm going to turn it over to HPD and Major Ramson for his presentation on HPD actions.
All right, members, here's what I want to suggest. I mean, because this is a it's like over 35 pages. Would you like to ask the questions to the EMS director now? And then maybe department heads and the other departments, if you guys want to do a summary of what your presentation, so that we can get the questions, some of the questions answered in a timely manner. What do you guys suggest?
Thank you, Director, for your presentation. I think because there's so many other agencies, my question is just how long is everybody else going to take? Because again, if we go through all the agencies, I don't know if I'm going to remember the questions I have for you. That was a lengthy first presentation. So it's up to the chair. I just think we have questions, but we do want to hear the completeness of all of the information. So whatever you decide, but I do think we need to cut down presentation time.
I hear you and understand. I can tell you that most of the other presentations range from maybe just a few minutes for ocean safety, who has one slide, and some of the others have a little bit more slides, maybe about 10, 15 minutes per department.
Okay, why don't we ask questions? How's that? Because I think it can be lengthy and, maybe something.
And Councilmember, yes. I'm happy to answer questions. I do have a wrap-up slide that talks about the larger lessons learned and area for improvement that DEM has identified that are more appropriate to the entire city versus the individual ones that I'm sure you'll hear from the other departments. So I don't know if DEM wants to wait till the end, or I'm happy to try to entertain them now.
Okay, why don't we Councilmember Kiana.
Can I just say some comments first? So I guess we can go forward. So I need to tell you, first of all, thank you to talking with me this morning. I've expressed my, I guess, some concerns with you and I never having met for a sit-down meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm the vice chair of the committee, and I've expressed concerns with regard to wanting this briefing. So for me, I'm sorry if I seem to be tongue-tied because I do want to hear from all of the agencies, but I have to tell you what I was expecting was a not something that looked like a thesis, but something that was talking about the overall picture, not just based on what the other agencies have said, but what you learned. Because I do know from the outset that I felt ill-prepared. So while you are applauding the overall coordination with the executive branch, we were floundering. There was no communication except for what we got from the action alert. And as a result, things like the inconsistent maps at all levels of government, including on your page, where people were supposed to evacuate to, the minimal information for Honolulu action alerts unless you actually pressed it. When I was trying to tell people, they go, oh no, it's off because, but that's because there were so many earthquakes over the last week preceding it. And so I'm just a little frustrated at the moment, but why don't so you're going to ask questions now, and then how about okay, I'm okay with that.
Sure?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm good with whatever, because I can be at the 10 o'clock if you guys are good.
He'll be here alone.
Okay. Why don't we do the presentations and then we'll come back and ask the question. Unless, is that cool? Is that all right?
I leave it to you. Go ahead.
I'll ask a few. Is that okay?
Okay. All right.
I'm just saying there's so many things in my mind that I just kind of want to just pour it out really quick.
Yes, ma'am.
I do think that for me, my concern was you did list Kole Kole, or actually it was listed here that we opened up Kole Kole. For me, that was the only installation in my district that required state, military, as well as city and county coordination. And I called the meeting to debrief. So I do think that on the back end of any emergency, I need your department to lead the debrief. So that means that in the actual debrief, you guys are the Department of Emergency Management. Technically, even if HAIMA issues the notice, you guys are still the point in any emergency. So I felt like, of course, I needed to have the debrief because people in the community, as well as other elected officials, are like, hey, if this ever happens again, who was supposed to notify who? Because it came from DOT, it went to the military, and then later we found out about it, much later, HPD found out about it. So that's my first thought. Please lead debriefs right after the incident while the information is fresh. Because I think while the information is fresh, you're right, we don't want to durate too long because that was super important for me. It does say here in HPD's slide, need dedicated PIO at DEM, EOC to unify media messaging. So I didn't necessarily see that in your wrap up, but you might have alluded to it. But then also, on another slide from HFD, they wrote, establish a clear lead agency and unified command structure. So that's the same thing that HPD said, which is that you, director, have to be the lead. So say, for example, the Miley fires, right? When people are looking for information, it has to be one person. Mm-hmm. So I do think, you were kind of new when the Miley fires came in, but in any incident, everyone is kind of looking for who's going to call the shots to what agencies in what order. Also, if there's news interviews, and I'm saying this because the prior DEM director, he took all the news interviews. So I think that's something that you guys should establish. And then lastly, on the slide, I'll save my last comment for DTS, but those are the main two ones that I was thinking of. I do think being more concise, even when you talk to us, but also when you talk to media, concise, choosing the words carefully, because in an emergency, we don't want to be giving out so much information that we have to divulge where the important parts are. Speak slowly, concise information, then as soon as you give a report of what DEM is going to do, get that in text to all of us. Get it to me, get it to Councilmember Tulba, whatever you guys' phone tree is. We should be reading 5 bullet points from the DEM director on any information at any time. I appreciate you texting me directly during the Miley fires because obviously it was my district, but I do think that we are relying on you to be the point of contact for all the city agencies.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, since we want to just ask questions for DEM, and then we'll move on to the next presentation, and we can ask questions then. Okay, Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Director.
Good afternoon.
And I want to thank you for your presentation. I do have questions, I think, moving forward. But one of the questions I had from just remembering that the day of the tsunami, I wanted to understand the process of how evacuations were decided. It seemed not wise. It seemed very inefficient that we let everybody go at a certain time, and that caused traffic as everybody was going home. And what was the thought process behind that? Who makes the decision, and what was the timeline for that? I think, to me, that didn't make, again, any sense, and it led to, if the tsunami had hit, we would have had Councilmember Tulba and Tupola's district really, really impacted because everybody was on the road trying to get home.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, and the evacuation in a tsunami, as I mentioned, is very difficult to understand because as we develop these plans, if it's a short-term tsunami, we don't have the time to do dispersed evacuation. So our playbook at the time was as soon as the tsunami warning is issued, we are communicating to the entire island to evacuate the tsunami areas and get to an area of safety beyond the tsunami zones. And so that's the communication, and that was the trigger at the time of the tsunami warning issued by the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. That being said, we know that the manner and mechanism in which we did that created a lot of problems, especially because it landed at the time that it did. And those are the things that we're working out between HPD, DTS, Hawaii Department of Transportation, and other stakeholders to evaluate and determine the best methods in the future if we can do any type of phased evacuations so that we can look at, okay, Waikiki first and then downtown second and so forth, if that will hopefully relieve some of the congestion that we had, the gridlock that we had. And so we're going to be evaluating that and coming up with a new mechanism based on the lessons learned there.
Thank you. And thank you for being reflective on, incidents. That's the best way to move forward, is if we can look at what we've done and figure out the ways that we can make things better. I'm not a professional in this capacity like you are, but again, common sense, would have made more sense to have, if we have all of the government employees leaving at the same time, heading to their different homes, where they were in buildings that maybe wouldn't have been impacted directly by the tsunami. Just food for thought as you guys plan for the future. And knowing that we can't prepare foolproof for every scenario, but that just, it hurt me thinking about it. I've lived through multiple hurricanes, and I just thought about the people that were on the roads, and what if the wave actually came? We would have been in a very, very different, we'd be having a different conversation today. My next question kind of relates to what Councilmember Tupola has mentioned with the responses from HFD and HPD and their suggestions. What do you understand your role to be? Because it sounds like the departments are looking for that type of direction or leadership. You have multiple departments that have to coordinate and communicate, especially in these emergency situations. So what do you understand your position to be? I'm not gonna lie, when I was watching the news, I was waiting for more leadership from you. And we had met in my office previously, but this was the first time where probably you had been tested publicly in your capacity.
Certainly my role as the director of the Department of Emergency Management, my role is to lead the emergency response, the coordination of the emergency response. I don't really have direct authority, if you will, over any of the departments or anything like that, but I do have more of a collaboration and the authority to bring all the agencies together, which is what the Emergency Operations Center does. We unify on our objectives, and we discuss the different strategies and we move forward with that. And but I am the direct representative of the mayor who expects me to perform and lead us through emergencies and crises, and I take that role seriously, and I hear your feedback, and we'll seek to improve.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Kiana.
Thank you. Actually, I'm going to wait for the totality of the presentation, but since we are talking about when we just first found out, I just wanted to flag two things, and I mentioned it briefly, because what I was getting, let's just talk about maps. You do admit that all of the maps were was confusing at the city, state, and federal level, correct?
Yes, ma'am, and especially, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, yes, and the reason being, and that is why actually Chair Waters and I happened to be here, and it was confusing because all of our constituents were asking for the accurate map. Your map was kind of interactive, and unless you went in and you were savvy, you wouldn't know. In the good old days, people would just go to the phone books, of course, and we don't use that now. But I have to applaud your deputy director, Jennifer Walter, because I did meet with her, and I expressed to her that that day, the Windward leaders were all online, and a map was circulating that was inaccurate. It was saying that the whole Ko'olaupoku region had to be evacuated, as opposed to, if you looked at the NOAA map, it would have said just on the beach lots, and it was designated. So to her credit, she has put it on. And the reason I'm sharing this with everybody is I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know what the appropriate map was because I had to navigate. And I'll be honest with you, I heard from various level of officials at all levels of government, including our congressional delegation. So it's very confusing. So number one, in order to know first who needs to evacuate, you have to have the appropriate maps. And whatever you could do to help with that, it would be helpful. So just for my colleagues, if you go now to the DEM website, they still have their interactive map, but it would be the NOAA website that you want to share with your constituents. Because what I could have done, which I didn't do, is I would have been able to have a picture of all of the areas in my district and post it online, which I did not do. Second, with the actual action alert system, as you know, you use it from various agencies. And all I know was that during that week, there were several earthquakes. And so if you just looked at what came out, it didn't say, unless you pressed it, it didn't say where it was, what the magnitude was. And so again, your deputy director has, if you notice some of the action alerts now, it spells it out. So all I'm saying is that is helpful, because if you look at that past week, it got confusing that people were no longer taking it serious. So when I was calling my family who live on the Waianae coast, they said, don't worry, that was false alarm. But they were talking about yesterday. And it was because all of the alerts look alike. Yeah. And so it's better to say specifically where it is, what the magnitude is, and, you know, of course, there's the warnings, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember during that week, we got something when I pressed it about Drake Passage, and I had no idea where Drake Passage was. Does anybody know where Drake Passage is? Okay, well, that's what we're getting on the action alert here in the Hawaiian Islands. So just a little more information to try to explain that. And that's also, I just want to let you know, those two issues were addressed. And I know for my district, I think they want to be better prepared. So now they will. They need to kind of know where to go, and whatever advice that you guys could give on vertical versus leaving and staging it at certain times would be very helpful. And I'll hold any other comments to after the presentations, Chair.
Awesome. I'm going to ask my question now, and then I'm going to proceed with HPD. Maybe more clarity on high rises and what floor you're safe on. So people on Ala Moana Boulevard who are within the tsunami zone but live on the 17th floor know they're safe and they will not try to evacuate as well.
Yep. So the guidance there is if you are in a 10-story building or higher, then go to the 4th floor or higher for safety. If you're in a lower than 10-story building, you're not in a good building. We don't advise you staying in that particular building. So move to a 10-story building or higher and go above the 4th floor.
I think, you know, when we were in school, they told us, was there a fire, go to a certain place. Now, why can't we somehow implement that if it's a tsunami, even if it's a short-term tsunami or long-term tsunami, that if you're working in a building, just stay in the building, go up 10 floors, and it'll stop all the traffic that we saw. You know, is it education? Do we need to educate the public more on vertical evacuation during this time? Because, man, I think everybody was on the road.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. And, you know, if you look at that second to last slide, and it talks about public education, public education, public education. There were so many things that we learned from this particular incident that we absolutely need to do better in public education that will help even the gridlock traffic.
Awesome, thank you. We'll move on. So thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and Council members. My name is Clifford Ramson. I'm a major with the Honolulu Police Department, and I'm the commander of the Major Events Division, which is why I'm here briefing you today on this. In a nutshell, the Major Events Division is the Emergency Management and Homeland Security branch of HPD. We basically get involved whenever there are large-scale planned or unplanned events, natural disasters, anything that is so large in size and scope that it exceeds the capabilities of a typical patrol division. So something like a tsunami, this is pretty much where my division will get involved, and there's a series of things that take place within a police department. I think maybe just for the sake of time, instead of me walking through a whole timeline and just kind of walking through things, I think it would be helpful if I maybe break down what exactly is the role of the Honolulu Police Department in something like a tsunami. And just for you guys' understanding, so you guys can kind of see during that timeline what happens, what takes place, and how decisions are made within the Honolulu Police Department. So when the tsunami warning came out at 1:34 p.m., I should say a watch was issued at 1:34. The actual warning took place at 2:44. So you had a little over an hour between the time that things kind of really kicked up to a different level and that initial watch was issued. Well, the Honolulu Police Department has plans that have been put in place well in advance for any number of scenarios, whether it's wildfire, whether it's tsunamis, hurricanes. Think of it as a template, if you will. All 8 patrol divisions have this template unique to their area. So each division knows where the flood inundation zones, they know what streets, what intersections, what areas need to be blocked off, where checkpoints are to be established, et cetera. They know certain police stations would have to be evacuated and so on. So the moment we were issued the tsunami watch, already things are starting to play out. Yeah, notifications are being made, and a couple things happens. We send a couple of officers to the Emergency Operations Center. We work closely with Director Collins and his folks. Their primary purpose is to gather information from officers on the road, up-channel it to the EOC, and send information back both ways. At the same time, we also activate what's called the Department Operations Center, the DOC, and that's located at the main station of HPD headquarters. And at that location, we have live video feed from all over the island, from traffic cams. We also collect data and information through large video screens like what you would see on TV on an operations center. And this is where the department's leadership will gather and remain throughout the event. And this is where information is collected, decisions are made, and then acted upon within that operations center in coordination with the EOC. The EOC is where coordination between the city and other agencies are made. Now, what we also did was we sent officers to the JTMC, the Joint Traffic Management Center, where we also have our folks there to coordinate with them. So it's really a unified effort, you know, EMS, fire, police department, as well as the Emergency Management Agency. And that's kind of how it all plays out. So I think in all this, some of the things that we discovered is that although each division has these templates, if you will, we call it manuals of operations, MOPs, they're templates only because they're also adjustable to what the situations are at hand. So a good example is As these things kicked into high gear, so by approximately 2:30, I think we initiated the dock, and by 2:45, the word came down, hey, this is real, it's going to turn into an evacuation, full-scale evacuation. The regional parts of the island, the west side, the north shore, they went ahead and initiated those plans. The commanders have the flexibility to adjust, make adjustments as needed, so intersections were blocked off, evacuations commenced. Part of what officers do is they also go out and find locations where there are siren gaps that have been identified. They'll use PA systems on their patrol cars and notify the public that, hey, that this evacuation is commencing. However, in town, of course, the traffic had become so, in such a short amount of time, had become so unmanageable that these plans couldn't be implemented. There was no way we could set up traffic checkpoints or roadblocks and the traffic was absolutely at a standstill. So we had to adjust and basically, as best we could, working with our partners at the Department of Transportation, just to keep traffic moving. And they did that by adjusting the traffic lights, utilizing officers where they could to try to push traffic through intersections. But we had to adjust those plans. We couldn't set up roadblocks and even think of implementing any kind of forced evacuation, if you will, with the conditions as they existed. So that's important to understand. If you look at the timeline, I mean, from the time the police department was activated, and I'm not going to go through all of it because it's just lists the things that occurred. DOC was activated, information was flowing. We brought in volunteers from the Emergency Reserve Corps, which are volunteers from DEM to help man traffic control checkpoints and assist our officers. One of the things they mentioned is, here's one example, their officers are sent to go check Camp Erdman to ensure that no children were remaining during the evacuation. And keep in mind, while all this is going on, there's still priority calls for service. The business of policing doesn't stop on the island. So those things continued as well. And of course, you know, the estimated arrival time, I believe, was about 7:10 p.m. And by that time, you know, it began to be pushed back. We weren't sure when the potential impacts were. So some of the areas of the island, like Councilwoman Tupola, I know in your area, Captain Han kept traffic out there held up beyond it because we didn't get the all clear. We had to kind of wait and see where this would play out. I understand the officers are having a hard time because a lot of folks are getting really agitated trying to get home and they're worried about family members and so on. So once we got the all clear, a little later in the evening, we were able to clear the roads. By 10:04, all the roads are opened up, and by 11:45, we were able to go ahead and do a demobilization of resources. Like I said, in the interest of time, I don't want to go through everything. I think at the end of the day, really, I think our system performed as well as could be expected. We always gotta account for the things that we don't anticipate. Nothing ever flows as smoothly as you want in plans, yeah. So I think we were able to make adjustments and kind of work with what we had. There's always room for improvement. So internally in our department, certainly there's always room for improvement with communication, internal communication. We talked about things like improving the layout of our operations center just so we get the right people sitting next to each other and talking to each other. I think probably the biggest gap we saw that day, and I think Councilwoman Tupola mentioned it, was the communication gap as far as the opening of the Kole Kole overpass. That just didn't get to us. I think we found out from the news is how we found out that it gotten open. So that was a gap between probably the state, the federal government, and us. It just never got to us in time. Once we did find out, I believe District 8 was able to send the officers up there and be able to staff those areas that needed to be staffed for safety reasons. You know, but that's kind of a critical gap, and we were able to fill that need quickly. But short of that, I think once again, I think a tsunami is one of those things that you can plan, and you need to plan meticulously as best you can, but it's difficult. You can role play it on you know, doing tabletop exercises. But until something like that really happens, I mean, it was just the right time of the day when everybody's in town, everybody's getting off work, everybody's getting ready to leave. And that's where the real challenges arose for our officers to try to figure out how do we modify existing plans to accommodate such a surge and volume of traffic and to try to get folks where they needed to go and get folks out of those areas that were inundation zones. Certainly, I think communication and education will be a big part of that. I do wonder how many people, though, would probably still want to get to their families. I think that's probably a lot of people's overriding concerns at the end of the day, but certainly an effort could be made along those lines. But that's pretty much it for me. Do you guys have any questions for the whole police department?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and take some questions. Councilmember Tupola.
Thanks, Chair. Aloha, Major. I didn't know MED was running point, so that's good for me to know because we just debriefed the whole Kole Kole thing with the military, Joint Base Pearl Harbor, as well as Navy Army sides, because on the Army side, they were, thinking that we were just going to open it, people are going to go through, but on the Navy side, they were IDing people and checking registration in an emergency. I was like, what in the world? But we never ran a tabletop with civilians, ever. We've
Correct.
only run tabletops with emergency vehicles. So my suggestion moving forward is that we should run a tabletop and then actually pretend as if we're letting civilians through. So that's one. I think that you guys' summary of all the areas of improvement was the best in this presentation. So thank you for being thorough because there are many areas of improvement. Can you guys maybe in this upcoming budget suggest where CCTV should be expanded to? We could possibly put it into the budget, but I would need to know because when you said that we need to expand it to the regional areas, I don't know where the gaps are. So could you guys get that maybe?
Sure, I think that would be very helpful.
Because we don't want to just put the suggestions, we want to fund the suggestions, right? The next thing is the PIO at DEM to unify media messaging. I know I brought it up earlier, but I'm glad you guys put this here because truly, I mean, I appreciate you guys' social media text, and truly it should be coming from DEM, right? Internally, I was talking to Major Beckley, I was talking to Chief Vanek, I was talking to them, but those pieces of information should be coming from one source because HPD didn't know Kole Kole was open. Then on top of it, this is another thing, and I know it might have to trickle down, but if you guys open emergency access roads, have the officer take a picture of that it's open and send it because they were announcing it on the news that it was open and it wasn't. And it was right by my house, so I walked over there and I was like, oh, look, it's closed. Huge line of cars waiting. Hey, we thought this was gonna be open. Simple protocol. You open the gate, take a picture, send it to your major, then it's really open. I don't know who miscommunicated there, but again, it was an emergency, so immediately as soon as people heard, they were just rushing to whatever road was open. Also, with the emergency access roads, because Kole Kole doesn't have lights, the military decided to close it at 7. So when I had the debrief with them, they said, oh, once we were all clear, we closed it. I was like, no, that's not true. You guys closed it when the sun came down. So if the sun comes down and they close Kole Kole, we should determine whether or not we close the emergency access routes or not. So when they closed it, HPD determined to close all the access routes. I don't think we should have done that, but I don't know the protocol. So if there is a protocol that you guys have, I think we should discuss it because just because Kole Kole is not open doesn't mean that people shouldn't be able to traverse or get out of the, the ocean areas and kind of just, some people were just trying to stay Mauka. They weren't trying to go across to Schofield. They just wanted to stay out of the coastal areas because my whole district is pretty much coastal, right? The other thing that I think on here that you guys put was video link for state briefings was inconsistent. Whose downfall was that?
It's difficult to say. I don't know if it was more of an IT issue, and I think we've kind of came up with a fix for that. Because basically we're trying to video link with HIEMA and the state, and we're doing it through the city through our partners with DEM, and it's just you're jumping through multiple steps to be able to observe the video brief. So I think things like that that's not a difficult fix. I think we can probably come up with a quick fix for something like that.
I think lastly, when traffic was held up, which they tried to wait to the last minute, and I get it. We had to make the decision at a last minute, right? We couldn't just tell people 3 hours ahead of time, hey, 7 p.m., we're closing Farrington Highway. The road was closed for 3 hours.
Right.
I'm not saying that we could have known that. We couldn't have known that. We have to turn cars around. We shouldn't be keeping people on the freeway for 3 hours. That's no bathroom. So then people are just turning around, driving on the wrong side of the road, peeing outside their car, talking to other people in the middle of the road because it was basically like, The Walking Dead out there. It's just nobody was knowing what to do. We have access routes. And say, for example, you guys decide to stop, and I thank Captain Hahn, I thank everyone for their best efforts. I'm not trying to say no one gave their best effort. They all did. If you guys decide to stop at Honokai or whatever it is, because I'm talking about tens of thousands of people that were stuck on the freeway, right? Just turn them around. Say, we're going to do a loop here. You guys all wait at Kapolei at the park where the bathroom is. Just get them off the road because say, for example, a tsunami did hit. How are we going to reverse all those cars out of there? We couldn't. So I think whenever we're talking about traffic management, yes, block areas that may have a wave come over, a tsunami, but don't have them sit on the road. See if you guys can reroute them to areas where there is help, food, bathroom, because that was an unknown, right? We didn't know how long it was going to close. So do you think that's something you guys could wrap into the protocol?
I think so. I think we can work with District 8. I mean, each district had their own challenges. They all each had their own, some were a little bit smoother than others. Obviously, District 8 had their own challenges there. And like I said earlier, when those checkpoints were established, those plans were made, it was a long time ago. Yeah, the information is still pertinent, but we also give the commanders leeway to make adjustments based on whatever circumstances they're dealing with at the time. So, a good example is town. They elected not to go with that option at all because there was so many people still within the flood inundation zone. And quite frankly, a lot of people just refused to leave. So we had to make a decision. Are we going to start forcing people and arresting people? Well, that's going to take up additional staffing and manpower, and we were already strained, as it were. So a lot of times these decisions have to be made on the fly. As far as working with the districts, for sure, every time we have an event like this, we do an AAR afterwards, and we sit down and try to break down and figure out what exactly worked, what didn't work, and maybe figure out ways we can mitigate or fix some of these problems. So I'm sure we could probably work with District 8 and see what could be done.
Yeah, because the issue was that DOT recently made a median. So prior to this, you could U-turn it anywhere on Farrington, anywhere. Now the median goes from Kapolei all the way down into the coast, so you can't turn around anywhere unless you want to drive on the wrong side of the freeway. We have access routes. We could ask Campbell to open the one by the water park. So all I'm saying is I understand that at the top level, there was no all clear. I talked to Chief Anik about this.
Right.
So at 8 o'clock, at 9 o'clock, at 9:30, I was like, we have to make a alternative decision that doesn't mean that we're doing the all clear, right? So
Sure.
I just think some interim decision, once we've passed hour and a half, 2 hours, not like, oh, drive across Farrington, but interim decision is, hey, turn all the cars around and send them to a park, or we're not sure when the all clear is going to happen. So again, it's not my lane. You guys do what you think is best on the ground. I just thought that I was mitigating too many issues of people in cars waiting. So thank you.
I understand. I was actually in the dock watching, at the time when we were waiting for the all clear. And let me tell you, all the division commanders were calling like, hey, what's the word? And I guess that's the difficulty in it, right? Like, if we do the all clear prematurely without actually having it all clear and something happens, then now people's lives are in danger. So I know for the assistant chiefs and the people making those decisions, it was a hard decision to make because you don't know what you don't know until we have a definitive answer. But certainly, yeah, I think, well, like I said, I think we would have to look at conditions on the ground. I don't know specifically what the problems were on that particular roadblock coming into D8. Like I said, we had so much information flowing into us from all over the island. But I can work with Major Beckley and Captain Hahn, and we can see if what alternatives maybe we can come up with should something like this happen again.
Yeah, I just, again, not to beat a dead horse, but there has to be an interim decision, not a all clear decision.
Right.
We could have easily rerouted them through Colina, opened the back access, put them back through Campbell, got back to Kapolei. I know all the back roads in my community. We could have had an interim decision, but I think everyone was only waiting for the ultimate decision.
Right.
Let's not wait for the ultimate decision that could come 5-10 hours later. Just do the interim decision so that we can just alleviate the pressure. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anything
Councilmember
else?
Okimoto?
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, good afternoon, Major. I want to thank you also. I think I'm really thankful for the departments again for coming and giving your input. I was thinking, when this tsunami happened, this is right around the time where we were discussing the bill that we have just postponed, which is the Bill 46. And the media came out really strongly about why this was a perfect scenario, why they need information. So in light of that, I'm trying to understand, and some of your suggestions, as well as other departments, is this confusion about how things are communicated between the department, how things are getting out to the media. From your experience and in your observation, what could, and I know you have some recommendations here, but when we get told, okay, the media is relying on HPD to get all the information out, and Councilmember Tupola is saying from her district specifically that there were specific things that didn't get out properly. Again, from your perspective, what happened? What could happen? Who is giving out the information to the media? Should it come from you individually or departments, or should it come from DEM, which is what I think we are understanding and leaning towards? But could you share with us that perspective?
Well, from the police perspective, DEM, they're pushing their information out. They're pushing out the alerts to the public. They're pushing out information in general. So everybody, you know, like Director Collins alluded to, they're pretty sure everybody knew that the tsunami was coming at that point. I think for the police department, something we've integrated into our operations now and we found works really well is just having information pushed out via social media. We started doing that, believe it or not, during the Eddy last year. It's the first time we had a social media team sitting with us in the Department Operations Center. And we found, interestingly enough, that people respond more to Hungry Hawaiian and all these other things. You get way more people hearing it and understanding and acting on it than we do through traditional other means that we'd use. So we started building that into our team at the Operations Center. So that night, what we do is we're pushing out messaging specific to things like evacuation. So perhaps had we been aware, I wasn't aware of all the issues that occurred in your area, Councilwoman Tupola. Maybe had we known that, then that kind of information is what we would push out through HPD social media in real time, and we could tell people, hey, this particular route is open or not. That's really their purpose there, and that's something that we found to be very, very successful. The big thing is for us is we kind of try to stay in our lane. We try to stick with what's pertinent to HPD, which is evacuation, public safety, messaging, and so on. And we take our cues from emergency management. You know, they're taking the lead on this event, and we're just playing a support role in our role, same with all the other branches. So I think in the suggestion we had is probably more to sync up and maybe unify that approach. I know for me, one of the things is we're geographically separated. We're in the same area, but we're in separate buildings a short distance from each other. And sometimes even in that distance, it's hard to get communication when you've got a lot happening, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things occurring, and communication can get broke down. Like I said, that I honestly feel a lot of it was relatively minor in-house stuff that we can clean up. But irregardless, a lot of little things can build up into big things, right? So that's our intent, is to try to sync with all the other emergency services and with DEM as well. And they did a pretty good job that night. As far as we were concerned, that's one of the high points. Was we felt that it was successful and that there was a flow between us, the EOC, the JTMC, and we were able to make decisions in real time and make things happen. So it wasn't all bad. It's just, like I said, I like to be honest in these AARs, so that for ourselves, brutally honest ourselves, so we can improve our processes within the police department. And that was my intent.
Thank you, and I think that's wise. And I also believe that if the comments are pretty consistent, then there's something that it's not, again, personal. It's just, okay, what can we do to improve? And I was trying to figure out, I don't have the history timeline of when but we have incidents where we have natural disasters or warnings of these. And I'm trying to understand it. I'm not sure if you were there at the time in the department when previous situations like this, emergency situations occurred. Mm-hmm. What has worked in the past? If you're saying that this is what you're suggesting, is that something that has happened in the past? And if it's not happening now, I'm trying to understand why and how we can move forward. Because this is Hawaii. We have natural disasters often, and we have scares and things we have to live through. So I am a little, curious to understand why we have these situations at the areas to improve right now, what worked before, and why we were not able to continue with what worked before.
Okay, I'll try to answer your question. I think, well, from my perspective as the commander of the Major Events Division, since I came on board, it's always been my intent to really lean forward, if you will, and for lack of a better word, do everything we can to integrate with the other partner agencies and emergency management. I already do say I'm part of the Honolulu Incident Management Team, so I already have a very close working relationship with the folks you see sitting here today. And when I took over the division, it was my intent that I want to sync what the department does with the rest of them. So having said that, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on that didn't happen before. I know it's outside the topic, but wildfires is one of the biggest issues right now. Police department never really got involved that much at wildfires. We stayed in our lane, HFD fought fires. Well, now we're finding that we're having to really sit down and figure out and integrate our efforts because of what happened in Lahaina. And that kind of applies to everything else. Now we're seeing just a lot more stuff going on that maybe wasn't happening in the frequency that it did in the past for whatever reason. So as far as the Honolulu Police Department is concerned, yeah, we are evolving. My division is ever evolving. Our stance is always evolving. We're always trying to figure out how we can be of more useful, if you will, or how we can improve the processes from the police side of the house to integrate with everybody else and produce a better product for the public, if you will. So I hope that answers your question.
No,
It's not static. You're right. When I look at these plans we had, they're great. They're a good foundation. But yeah, these plans were written 30 years ago, and yeah, they've evolved, but there's always what they call the fog of war. Things happen that you don't anticipate, that you don't know. Middle of a business or at the end of a business day, everybody in Honolulu all trying to leave at once. Well, those plans went out the window. So now we got to adjust and improvise. And certainly next go around, now we can do better, yeah, because now we can figure out what works, what didn't work, and we can work with my partners back here to come up with better processes. So I hope that answers.
No, it does. Thank you. And I really do appreciate. I thank the chair for having this discussion and the vice chair for, having this put as priority. And we as a council, because if we're lucky, those of us here, we serve here if we're lucky 8 years in this capacity, and we don't know what we're going to see. But the fact that you guys are willing to constantly be evolving, we want to be able to support you guys in whatever you need, because at the end of the day, it's our constituency also that we have to care about. And my district is inland. I understand that, maybe we weren't going to be directly hit by the tsunami, but we have loved ones or others working. So I want to be able to understand and support you guys as well as the other departments. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Kiaina.
Major, first of all, I echo the sentiments of my colleagues with regard to the overall presentation. Very well done, concise. You talk about not only the good things, but also areas of improvement. I just wanted to thank you because the community policing team, the only incident I had where we needed HPD's kokua, and DTS is aware of it as well because we had to work with them, is that for Lanikai, we have this project called the Kalapuai Roundabout. Mm-hmm. And it's been ongoing for a while because it was a significant flood mitigation roundabout, and the contractors left at the time of the alert, and the community needed for the area to be cleared so the flow of traffic could proceed. And so because of that, DTS had to call HPD and they moved it. So I just wanted to mahalo you. But what it does to me is it raises the question of overall coordination with any contractor dealing with infrastructure or roads for any of the agencies. And so this is, I'm flagging for the administration in general and DEM. There needs to be an internal policy on how to deal with that so we are not left flat-footed in the event that HPD was not available because they were helping, right? Everybody was on deck. That would have been a bad situation. I personally would have driven there and taken everything down myself. But that's not what you want. So again, I just wanted to mahalo you for that. I also think that, for everyone who's putting presentations together, if we could do what HPD did, and when the timeline, some of the other ones say like 213 hours, can you guys just say what it is, 8 p.m.?
Sorry, I'm used to police time.
You guys didn't do that. You guys didn't do that.
Oh, we did? Okay.
The others did.
All right.
So you guys did it. So I'm just saying that this is the way it should be done. We have a couple of presentations coming up that says that. And, we're all stressed out, right? People kind of factor it. Why don't you just spell it out, make it easy? But thank you. I wanted to let you know that, but it in my mind, that could have happened anywhere. We could have had roads closed off, right? Tree trimmers on the Pali Highway, right? So what policy is in place for all contractors, for all agencies that are out there, and what is the chain of command in telling them to cease, and how do we remove all of the barriers so there would be no impediment to the flow of traffic?
That's something I can look into. I know for road construction that the special duties section falls under my command, the major events division. That's your off-duty officers, yeah, that's working at these jobs. So as soon as the tsunami watch and then warning came out, our special duty section immediately canceled all special duty jobs, and notification was made to open up the roadways, keep them clear, that we weren't going to have any construction on the H1 tonight, or whatever the case may be. And so that part of it, we're able to get information out and establish that communication with the companies. The ones that aren't connected to that, though, I would have to look into that. Like I said, we have that connection with the ones that are utilizing officers. We can communicate that easily. Not sure about the others, but that's something that, you're right, that's something we should probably be looking into.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, I wanted to nominate you to be the Public Information Officer, point of contact for the city for emergency management, because you exude some calm while you're speaking and talking about this, and I think that is what the public needs to hear. So I nominate you, and then she seconded it, so you kind of go back.
I appreciate that, but you guys make me nervous, though.
All right. Okay,
No,
I'll
thank you.
third. Can we do that? I'll third. Thank you, HPD. Up next is the Department of Transportation. Department of Transportation here?
I think deputy left.
Okay, let's move on to Honolulu Fire Department, and if they come back, we'll have them.
First of all, I'd like to apologize for the military hours. I believe that's my slide. I'll get that out of the way. But aloha, Committee Chair Tulba, Vice Chair Kia'aina, honorable council members. My name is Kevin Mokulehua, Assistant Chief with the Honolulu Fire Department. Our presentation will highlight our department's tsunami response actions on July 29th, including our timeline of events, our specific response actions, and some lessons learned, areas for improvement. I do have about 11 slides. I'll try to get through them as fast as I can. I just want to note that the HFD's focus throughout was to protect lives, safeguard assets, including personnel and equipment, and maintain operational readiness in coordination with the Department of Emergency Management and our other partnering agencies. So regarding the timeline of events, I'm going to say them in real time so it's clear and understandable. So at around 1:49 p.m., tsunami watch was issued for the state of Hawaii with an expected arrival time of about 7:17 p.m. The Department of Emergency Management activated the city's EOC, after which the HFD activated its Quick Response Force, or QRF. This consists of our executive chief staff officers as well as other key personnel within our HFD headquarters. At about 2:15 p.m., the HFD's Department Emergency Coordinator reported to the city's EOC, along with other city representatives. At about 2:55 p.m., our Battalion Chief of the HFD's Fire Communications Center, or FCC, reported to the Joint Traffic Management Center's command bridge as the HFD's representative, which also included representatives from HPD, EMS, and the Department of Transportation Services, to focus on coordination, information sharing, and real-time decision-making to manage traffic and public safety. The command bridge was also in constant contact with the city's EOC. At about 4 p.m., our HFD's incident management team was activated to focus on planning and logistics. And at 5:42 p.m., HFD companies that were identified in the inundation zones were directed to begin evacuation procedures. This notification was made via dispatch channels by our FCC approximately 90 minutes before the forecasted tsunami landfall. At around 6:12 p.m., our FCC sent out another notification via dispatch channels to remind affected HFD companies about their evacuations. This was sent out approximately 60 minutes before the forecasted tsunami landfall. And at 6:42 p.m., our FCC sent out a final notification via dispatch channels to inform affected HFD companies that they should have already fully evacuated and staged at designated safe locations. This was sent out approximately 30 minutes before the forecasted tsunami landfall. From 9:30 p.m. to midnight after the tsunami event, our IMT was demobilized following the all clear from the city's EOC. The command bridge at the JTMC was deactivated, and our department emergency coordinator was released from the city's EOC. So I just want to emphasize our department's proactive evacuations, timely staging, and coordination with DEM and other agencies. So on to our specific response. So early in the event, we received the notice of tsunami watch with a magnitude near 9.0. We immediately activated our internal QRF. So our executive staff were already gathered at headquarters for a scheduled program review, so we quickly shifted our focus. Additionally, additional personnel in the building were also brought into the auditorium. Our first priority was to identify which of our fire stations were located in the tsunami evacuation zones, both the regular and extreme zones, so we could confirm who might be at risk and prepare for any necessary relocations. We used our internal mapping system called CODES, which stands for Community Online Data for Emergency Services. This was to check which fire stations were located in tsunami evacuation zones. We found that 16 of our fire stations were in areas at risk. So those stations were notified to move their crews and equipment to safer locations nearby, still within their coverage areas, so they could continue to respond to emergencies. The specific safe spots were chosen by the battalion chiefs in charge of those stations. HFD had representatives at both the city's EOC and the JTMC to help ensure coordinated decision-making. And despite the threat, HFD ensured readiness for fire, rescue, hazardous materials, and medical co-response emergencies. HFD closely monitored NOAA advisories, and we used DEM's VOC platform along with live video feeds to share accurate updates with both command staff and crews in the field. At the same time, our incident management team was activated to handle cost tracking, planning, and the deployment of critical resources, such as mobile generator trailers, communications gear, and other essential supplies. To prepare for a potential surge of public calls, including non-emergencies, we did increase our staffing at our FCC, and we also activated our backup site known as FCC Alpha at the Fossey Municipal Building. This ensured we could manage call flow and coordinate evacuation alerts with EMS in real time. After the event, HFD supported damage assessments in the evacuation zones and documented both our actions and our lessons learned. So just moving on to a few of our lessons learned and areas for improvement. So some of the key lessons learned and areas for improvement included command and coordination, need for a clearly designated lead agency and a strong unified command structure across public safety agencies. Internal communications for HFD, improving coordination between the EOC, the JTMC command bridge, the FCC, and our field companies. Consistency across agencies, better alignment of response protocols so that all agencies are operating the same way. And tsunami zone guidance, so clearer distinctions between the tsunami evacuation zone and the extreme zone, with more specific guidance on which areas should be evacuated. As noted earlier, HFD evacuated all fire stations in both zones out of caution. And some other areas we can improve upon. Setting clearer expectations for first responders working in inundation zones. Within HFD, improving how we pre-stage our equipment, supplies, and communications to strengthen our resilience. And finally, we see value in conducting joint training exercises with partner agencies, specifically for tsunami response. Well, we already have the annual Makani-Pahili hurricane exercise, but I think if we had something that's more tsunami focused, this would help us prepare for these fast-moving events. But that concludes my portion of the presentation. Here to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Questions from the Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you. I do know we still have some more presentations. With regard to the joint training and exercises, yes, absolutely, but with other agencies. But what about the community? Do you think maybe that depending on the areas, the coastal areas, the districts that are impacted, that we would be willing to work with you to have something also maybe with you and other relevant departments to have a exercise with our community, because just based on community concerns, they want to practice. And then maybe there you can update them on all the lessons that you guys have learned and how they could work together as a community. So I just wanted to throw that out as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Kiaina.
Oh, sorry.
No, I think that's a very great comment, and we welcome that. I think what we want to do is, as responding agencies, we'd want to work with DEM, work through DEM, and then if they were to coordinate these meetings or exercises, we'd be more than willing to participate. I think that day of the tsunami, there was a meeting out at Lanikai, if I'm not mistaken, and it might have been canceled because of the tsunami event, but I believe HPD had a representative. We actually had somebody on their way to meet with the community to discuss evacuation options in the case of a possible wildland fire. So, you know, we're open to working with all of our partner agencies and especially with DEM.
Thank you. And that is correct. Right now, the hottest issue is fire mitigation. And so you bring up a good point. The evacuation could be for almost any emergency, but I do know that in my community, top of mind right now is fire mitigation. And what efforts can we all undertake at our homes as a community to help? So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilmember Okimoro.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, good evening. Are we at evening time yet? Almost there. Good afternoon, Chief. And I'm going to repeat myself, but I do want to just thank you guys. I know that what you guys do in these settings, when everybody's trying to figure out how to get home, you guys are like, okay, how do we keep our community safe? So thank you for all that you're doing. I just wanted to kind of get a clarification. You mentioned the extreme tsunami versus the tsunami zones. Who decides that, and what happens when you decide it? Like, is that you guys that are deciding that this area is going to be a more dangerous area that we have to evacuate, or is it DEM, or who decides this?
So our internal mapping system, I believe it's a GIS system. We have a robust mapping system that has all of our fire stations on the map, and there is a disaster response layer. I believe the information is imported. I would have to double check on this, either through BEM's site or from NOAA's site. And it has the color, I think it was pink, as far as the regular tsunami zone that wraps around the island. And then the extreme zone would be further inland. It's a yellow color. So for us, it was pretty simple. You know, we can identify where all of our stations were. I think 5 of them were in the immediate pink shoreline areas, and then the other 11 were more inland. So, you know, when we assembled in our auditorium that day with our fire chief, our deputy chief, our assistant chiefs, that's the first thing we thought about. We had to keep our guys safe, get them out of those zones, but be able to respond. So we identified them, and we immediately had a meeting with all of our battalion chiefs in the field so that we could start coordinating that relocation.
And so, sorry, really quick before, thank you, Director. So when that's decided, and I actually, honestly, I feel bad, I never thought about this because we're all worried about ourselves, but you guys are out there, the guys are in the station, or the firefighters are in the station. Where do they go if they have to then evacuate? They're on duty. Where do they go?
So what they'll do is they'll grab whatever necessary equipment they need with them. They'll get on the truck, and then they're basically gonna have to traverse. You know, during that time there was heavy traffic, but They went into areas that were out of the zone as identified through the mapping system we have, and they were coordinating with their battalion chiefs, so their chiefs knew exactly where they were. So they weren't actually at other buildings. They were probably just on like streets. So they're basically staging in areas and then getting ready to respond anywhere in their area. So that was our plan. So they maintained operational readiness, and they were just basically in their trucks for several hours.
Wow, thank you. I actually never thought about that, but thank you.
Councilmember, just for clarification, the tsunami zones are established and the maps are, the layers are established by the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center and the National Weather Service, and we all use the same ones.
Same maps. Okay, and that's the same ones that you guys are using in the department? Chief, that's the same ones? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, DTS up next.
Aloha Chair, Council members, John Nouchi, Deputy Director, Department of Transportation Services. Ooh, my eyes belie my youthful appearance. I might have a hard time reading, but bear with me. Our Department of Transportation Services in these emergency situations, we have a dual stance actually. We do have traffic signals and roadway operations, and we have, oh no, thank you, I can't see. Thank you, I really appreciate it. I panicked a little bit. DTS does have a dual stance. We have traffic signals and roadway operations, and we have a public transit side. Regarding the traffic signals and roadway operations, we also had a unique stance during this tsunami event in that Director Morton was stationed at the DEM's EOC, Emergency Ops Center, and I was stationed at the Joint Traffic Management Center, the JTMC. So the Joint Traffic Management Center was able to serve as the real-time eyes on the conditions on the roadway, and actually also has that benefit. I know you've heard from other departments of being in the thick of things from the operational bridge in the JTMC with all of our first responders, including the Hawaii State Department of Transportation and everyone from HPD, HFD, EMS, Ocean Safety, and the 911 call takers. So the mood in the JTMC, of course, when things happen, it's very collaborative, but the energy just goes up exponentially, and we could feel that. And so we served as the eyes and ears and transmitted that information between Director and I on all transportation matters. We had, I know Tai Fukumitsu is one of your favorites from my department. He was like a commander in there. I don't want to say barking orders, but he was directly ordering our engineers to change the signals, to adjust the signal timing such that we could accommodate the most volumes of traffic leaving the Makai side areas to move inland or to move Mauka. And that signal timing, I think I was very proud to see that we had cleared the roadway, most of the roadways by the inundation time. And I think that dual stance was very useful to us. We'll go on to the next one. So in terms of DTS's multimodal transportation network, you know, we have Skyline, the bus and handy van, Beaky, and we also represent bicycle and pedestrian modes. Our bus and handy van services, we rolled on until about the 6 o'clock hour when we started no new trips in our transit services, and then got all of the vehicles out of the inundation area so that we could have. We knew we had to host some of our riders on board, but we got them as far out of the inundation areas as we could, and in some cases, got them as close as we could to their homes. But in some cases, like out in Eva, we could not enter that inundation zone. So we had a lot of buses huddle outside of the inundation zone, but we had good custody of our passengers. A lot of them, especially when we looked at handy van, some of them are disabled and have, they're just tired. They come from places like dialysis and other treatments. So I'm very proud of the compassion that our operators on both bus and handy van showed. We also carried more people than we normally do on Skyline. A lot of people did leave their cars at the Halava Skyline station and did try using that to get through the logjam that was H1 at the time. I think we can go on. And just when we looked at what happened, the lessons learned, I hear what all of you said about messaging and roadway capacity. Quite frankly, I think that's what we've heard as a department the most. People have requested of us, what we should have done is collaborated with HPD and created space for emergency responders and transit and things like that. But I think, as all of you who are out there that day know, there was no space to be created. I mean, we were already in a regular work peak hour traffic scenario, and we started seeing congestion and gridlock in small side streets that we had never seen before. And I think I've actually spoke to a bunch of you during the event, so I know what you were going through and just being trapped and being stuck, right? But I think messaging can really assist that. I think in this case, people heard that the warning was imminent, and everyone felt the responsibility to go someplace. And I think we need people to think and consider whether that someplace might be staying right where they are, if they can. We understand that people have ohana and they need to take care of others. But if you're safe and you have no other responsibilities, stay where you are. Home is not necessarily your only safe place. And I think that's something that we can do to message a little bit more effectively and keep the roadways less clogged, but to the extent that we can. It's one of the other things that we found we could do. We got a lot of calls saying people were on our buses and the buses were stuck and they felt that they were at risk in an inundation zone. And some of those buses, when we took in those calls, they were about 1 or 2 blocks away from safety. And so we want to message to our operators that if we get to that point where maybe there's not enough time, if everybody is able-bodied, they might want to consider getting off the bus and just walking a couple blocks or wherever that point might be. We do look to technology a little bit to help us with that message. I think the next time, but in the event of a different emergency too, we can message all of our transit riders through our new transit app that we've recently adopted since this event, as well as working with DEM to do more alerts via HNL alerts and other means. One of the things that we tried to do this time was message to the media, hey, people can get on Skyline. And no one ever gave us that courtesy of delivering that message. Our Skyline stations, we did actually talk with our operator, Hitachi, and they're willing to offer the assistance to safe haven people at our stations. In our operating segment right now, only one station is within an inundation zone. Every other station would have been available for people to just take safe harbor there. And so we're discussing those emergency ops plans as a lesson learned. And I think that's all I have, and I can take any questions.
Thank you, John. Councilmember Tupola.
Aloha, Deputy. Thank you very much. I know you're always in communication with all of us. We appreciate it. In your comment where you said a public bus may be close to a safe place and you can just walk, are you suggesting that because the bus can't go to the safe place, or are you suggesting that because there's some type of contractual prohibition on the bus just going to the closest shelter?
Oh, no, not at all. I'm sorry, maybe I should have been more clear. For example, we had a bunch of buses that were on Ala Moana Boulevard, and that was clearly, fairly close to the ocean. We had a lot of people call in while they were on buses and saying, hey, the bus can't go anywhere, what should we do? And I think we could message to our operators that please give the people an opportunity or offer that up. Hey, if anybody wants to get up and walk, please make that available. But I think we also have learned from the past, all the way back to Iniki back in '92, that our buses are pretty strong, safe places for people in the event. I mean, it's better than being out on a roadway if a tsunami or other kind of wave event were to happen. So to that extent, we like to keep our passengers safe on board, but we should also message that sometimes the inundation zone only reaches a little bit farther than where we were.
I guess my thought and my suggestion is that you guys have a clear protocol for the bus drivers, because for me, Like, I've actually done this before when we had a water main break in my district, and there was no way buses or cars could go in and out of Waianae for 3 days straight. So we had to have this whole bus operation happen because so many people in my community catch bus. So we couldn't just say, oh, no bus today. We had to get the little buses out there. We had to do... I just think at this point, you guys should have a written protocol. So say, for example, in the tsunami, there are buses that pulled off of Farrington and just went to the side of Farrington. Just tell them to go to the shelter. So we had to walk out and tell the buses, just drive a couple more blocks so everyone can get off and use the bathroom. And then at all the shelters, we had food that was being dropped off because it was indefinite, the amount of time that people were going to be in the bus. So similar to what I said to HPD, if the timeline is indefinite, then we need to get people, motorists, to the safest park, because most people were waiting at the park. All in Kapolei, they picked different parks to wait at because there was a bathroom, because they could talk with other people and try to get updates if they didn't know what was going on. So if there could be a written protocol for just the drivers in regards to what they say and what they do, I think that's the easiest. Because there were very similar situations since I've been in office where it was kind of like you guys were just kind of giving them the play-by-play. At this point, just have like at least a few scenarios worked out, a script that they say to people so there's no question. You may disembark the bus if you want to. These are the cautions we're doing, something like that. So all the bus drivers have the same verbiage.
Point well taken. And I really do appreciate you. I mean, we were in complete contact, right? And you were the ones that said, please have your buses go to Nanakuli High School. And that was very helpful to us. We did have to kind of work that a little bit because some of the buses already were on the Mauka side. And we just had to make sure that they were clear to go Makai so that they could get into that valley of Nanakuli. But I remember having those conversations with you. But I do agree, we could standardize our messaging via our text message function on our vehicles. We have the real-time messaging. And we did utilize that to some effect. It was more to, for people that were waiting for buses that were paused because we were not running service, not starting any new trips after 6, that we were worried that people would just be waiting at bus stops. So I think our coordination, I did put that in as a lesson learned, was to establish that common meeting points, the parks that you talk about, even our transit centers, our Skyline stations, places, I mean, for very basic needs. So people can use the bathroom. I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be a shelter because some buses were too far from the shelter and we didn't want them to go on Farrington. So just direct them to go to a park, nearest bathroom, nearest open public facility, the library, whatever it is. Secondly, when you said that you guys were offering the Skyline as an option for people to go on and nobody was kind of picking up your messaging, I was watching the press conferences, and this might be for director and everyone as a whole. I don't know if it's you guys, but me personally, I feel like the press conferences are too long. It's too much information. And then every single person in every agency gets up and you're trying to glean what they're saying. Like, I could be wrong. I don't know if Roger said it in his little talking section he got. I don't remember hearing him say that Skyline was option. He might have said it. But I guess what I'm saying is perhaps when you guys coordinated in those press conferences, have each person just say 1 or 2 things. Because sometimes, like towards the end of the tsunami thing, because we were waiting for 3 hours, people were just like, I have nothing to say. Thank you. I have not. And then it got more clear because then there was less information. So then it was more clear what was the most important information.
Filtered and not fire hose.
Yeah. So like when it first came out, it was too much. I think every agency should just say 1 or 2 things you really want the public to know, because the amount of information that was coming out at the press conference was not clear to me that Skyline was an option.
So to be clear, in this case, what we were messaging directly to the media outlets via our communications directly to the news station.
Did Director Morton say anything during the press conference about it?
I don't know. I was at the JTMC, so yeah.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
I appreciate you giving it out. I guess just in my mind, there are a lot of people that just had the news on, right? So they had the news on. We were trying to wait to see what information was coming out. I didn't hear Director Morton say that, but I just think that was a great option.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfortunate it didn't get picked up, but maybe we need to pick and choose what communication we have go out so it's clear what main points we're trying to get out there. I'm sure people would have loved to have Wi-Fi for hours.
It was quite nice to see somebody post something on TikTok, and it was like, now you like ride rail. And it had everybody lining up to get on like the last few trains.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to EMS. And if we can maybe highlight the timeline And then if we could go what we learned and some key things that you guys would really want us to understand.
Understood completely, Chair. Again, that's what my plan was. Deputy Director Ian Santee, Emergency Services Department, on behalf of Dr. Ireland, couldn't be with us today. He just wanted to begin to thank all our ESD professional staff, our paramedics, our EMTs, our core staff, our administrative, our health service, all did a professional and dedicated job that day, and they continue to do so every day. So again, Councilmember Kiana, I apologize for the military time, but that's how we talk. So from the future, we will make sure we will put it into regular time. And I'm just going to highlight, just on this slide, we talk about how at the notification, we were all in meetings or doing our things. We got the notification. We sent down a chain. You guys all have a copy of the PowerPoint. We notified all of our departmental staff that needed to be notified and got the ball rolling in what we needed to do. That included activating our own internal incident management team, activating our holding over personnel that we needed to hold over personnel for disaster preparedness and emergency management, which included fueling up our bus, having our disaster multi-casualty vehicles ready to respond, having food, water for our personnel and staff, and staging vehicles in safe locations to respond. Again, just as a timeline, again, we constantly met. Director Ireland was with our PIO over here at the EOC, while our chiefs were in one location as administrative and I was in another location helping prepare other things. So we were all constant communication throughout the time, making sure everybody knew what the events were going. As the event goes on, we also confirmed and communicated with the police and the fire department about our responses into the inundation zones, which was previously talked about. Again, as the warning came, because of the inundation zone, we still kept responding to areas that were not in the inundation zone. So we want to make it clear that our services never stopped. But however, to the inundation zone, because of the timing, we worked it out and coordinated with the other public safety agencies when we were going to stop responding into the inundation zone. As the wave was scheduled to hit and it didn't hit at that time, we're kind of still on observance, but there was an incident on the Kahuku side. That was a traffic accident that all of us did respond to, just to point out that. So we did try and continue to serve the community as best as we could with the resources that we had. And then just again, as the other agencies talked about the demobilization and the discussion about what we can do better. Again, we hear the comments about we are willing and open to participate with exercises and community involvement to find out how we can better our responses. We are open to more feedback and also to increasing our communications at all levels. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is during that time period, we just want to point out that we did still respond to 143 calls in the entire event. 123 calls occurred before the event. 66 patients were transported, and 20 EMS calls resulting in 11 patients were transported during the actual time. Our core team did go out right about 3 o'clock and go and walk and through the downtown area either by walking or trying to drive, but traffic was really bad, and trying to get the houseless individuals either to assist them to go to another location or work with them to encourage them to leave at that point. There was a group of gathering up in the Nuuanu area where they were gathered at one time. But that's all I have. I know I ripped through that, but pending any questions, and you guys do have the slides, so I'm available.
Question, okay? Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, I'm Deputy Director Santee. Thank you for the numbers, and I'm grateful again for all the things that you were able to do. I was just wondering, when this was all happening and there was parts of the island that were pretty confused and chaotic, how did it impact you guys? And were there any, I'm glad that you were able to get to these calls, but were there calls that we were not able to get to because of the confusion and the traffic in the back?
Based on the data that we received, no. I went through the list of calls at that time, so I can go and follow up with the actual call takers, but to my understanding, there were no delays in our responses.
That's good to know. That's good to hear.
But I will double check to make sure.
I think we should be prepared if this happened. What would we do if you are stuck? How do we get to it? And the fire trucks are elsewhere.
I do want to point out one thing, Councilmember. There was a lot of people calling, and that's, I think, a lesson learned is we need to do better at public education, doing more public service announcement. A lot of people were calling to say, I need you to evacuate me. I need you to take my bedridden person out of my house. And we can't do that during a time of emergency because we're still preparing ourselves. So that is a big thing that we can talk about with the council and our emergency operations center, emergency management team about how we can prepare the public to do that. Because The aftermath, we already planned for the next day. So if the tsunami was to hit, we in emergency services had a plan to how we would respond the next day. And we would know that all the power would be out, all the streets would be covered, and we would be getting 911 calls probably because somebody's on a home vent or somebody's on home oxygen, that thing is no longer working. So we do need to work on improving how do we work with them to get those.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any questions for EMS? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we'll move on to ocean safety.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, Council members. Kurt Lager, Director for the Ocean Safety Department. I'll just give a brief summary of Ocean Safety's response to the tsunami warning. I won't go over the timeline, but when the initial tsunami watch came in, based on the location and size of the earthquake, we started already having internal discussions on what our plans. We do have a tsunami action plan that the department has and which we followed. Once the warning came, we made departmental-wide notifications via radio, and then the non-essential employees at our headquarters, administrative staff, went home. Our general response during these emergencies is to warn all the beachgoers, people in the ocean, of the hazard that it may be coming. So we continue to respond to any emergencies and make warnings. At the same time, police started clearing beaches. HPD was very efficient from the reports I got that the beaches actually cleared quite quickly for the most part. We staffed the towers until about 5 p.m. All our lifeguards have to then go back to their own personal vehicles and then get out of the inundation zone themselves. At the same time, we're also gathering all our equipment, radios, batteries, and vehicles, jet skis, and we have predetermined pullback spots in all our different districts so that post-event we can respond. In this typical scenario, with the event being right around sunset time going into the evening, we do not respond on the ocean at night, but we were prepared for that. We stood by those pullback zones until about 10 p.m. after monitoring and not hearing any significant impacts. And then at that time, we went back down to the beaches, assessed the coastlines and our facilities, and at 11 p.m. we stood down. We did have representation with at the EOC with one of our captains and our PIO as well to help coordination with all the other city agencies and DEM. And then at 6 in the morning the next day, we were back on duty, made coastal patrols, assessing any damage, which we did. We found none. And that pretty much summarizes our response.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions for ocean safety? Okay, Councilmember Okimoro.
Thank you, Chair. Really quickly, so the lifeguards, you said they were on duty until 11. Where were they?
They have various different locations depending where in the district they are. Our Waikiki lifeguards pulled back to the parking lot at KCC. Some people go move inland, just up and out of the inundation zone.
And they're just waiting until...
Yeah, they're just standing by in the trucks.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, similar to fire. We're just standing by.
I'm learning so much today. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Director, you want to come up and then we'll ask some questions and I'll go to testimony in council as well online.
Okay, so as you heard, we have a lot of lessons learned. The different departments were very specific in their specific lessons learned, and we've also shared here some of the more major or overarching lessons learned in areas for improvement. Obviously, we've heard about traffic. Obviously, we've heard about some media issues. And for clarification, with respect to the media and how we handle our media operations, there's a whole new other system that we haven't really talked about. I know Major Ramson talked about the PIO. There's what we call a joint information center that gets activated. That was in effect, and the PIOs of all the different departments assemble and coordinate their messages there, and they're working with the media to get the specific information out through various media outlets. And so that's kind of how that process works. It's basically an emergency operations center for public information officers. And so that was in play as well. Obviously, we've heard about the vertical evacuation that we mentioned. We also talked about the pedestrian evacuations, and then we would also, haven't really mentioned it today, but carpooling, if we can do that to reduce the impact on the streets as well. And then one of the things I think is really important is that last one, and that's that social awareness and social responsibility. When we all start doing either shadowing or other things that are detrimental to the overall effort, our focus needs to be that we bring the community together and they're all focused on those same objectives, almost in the same way that we did with COVID, and we were wearing the mask for other people's benefit. So we shouldn't be going out on the roadways. We should be trying to get to safety and staying out of the way so that emergency responders can do their thing, and that we can be in a position for, God forbid, if this had turned into a real significant thing with real major impacts, it would have been much worse, obviously. So to that extent, having personal preparedness plans in place so that the families and communities can react together. And I know that happened in many of our communities, but we need to make a more concerted effort with regards to that. With that, I'll take any remaining questions.
Awesome. Okay, members, do we have any questions for the director? Okay, Councilmember.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. And I know it's getting late here. I did provide to you testimony from one of my constituents who may or may not be on. He's been watching this the whole time. He's a board member from Kaneohe Neighborhood Board. And part of the frustration from that he and others have been getting is that when they feel that we need more preparedness for our communities as well. They feel that in working with city agencies, they state that they're following standard operating procedures in their operation guidelines, mostly based, of course, on FEMA. And he's calling for the development of a comprehensive plan that takes into account the unique consideration of our island environment here, and that it should be customized for that. And of course, I think apart from in my view, I had asked you earlier, I'd like to see a flow chart of all of the departments and what we are doing, and then also a nexus of how we interface with the community. That's all. And so do you have any manao on that? I know that if Neil's on, he's going to be testifying to that regard, and he could speak for himself, but it doesn't have to be a fancy plan. I'm not asking for a city plan that you have to do for FEMA. I'm asking just for a overall plan, because this is wonderful, but this is not a plan, right? Beyond the operational guidelines and procedures, is there any way that you guys could put a plan together?
Yes, Councilmember, we absolutely have a comprehensive emergency management plan that we follow. We followed it for, it's what we call an all hazards plan. And it is definitely designed specifically for Oahu. And we use it for the Maili fire. We used it for this particular incident, and we've used it for, even preparations for Hurricane Kiko, which thankfully went to the north. And so we follow the different, each hazard also has its own particular annex because each hazard has some unique things that also have to happen, like in a hurricane. So we follow that plan, and that's really why you had much of the good things that happened in regards to this response. I'm not saying that the plan is perfect, and we absolutely need to update it after every particular incident, but those plans do exist, and we do follow them.
Do you have a flow chart?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a flow chart?
A flow chart?
A flow chart. I mean, that doesn't have to be in a plan, just to show all of the relevant agencies, who does what, lines of communications, lines of responsibility for a disaster.
Yes. The plan's very large. I would have to go back and see if there's a flow chart that is addressing the very specific thing that you're asking for.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be from a plan.
Okay.
It could have been in this PowerPoint today, quite frankly,
okay,
as an overview.
Yes,
but thank you, and as well as to all of the agencies who came here today. I do know that there may be people standing by to testify. So I just wanted to mahalo everybody.
No, thank you. Thank you for, doing this because I think it's super important, and it would have been a lot better if we had it but again, because of the challenges and the reports that have to go in, I think top of mind, it would have been better if we did it closer to what had happened. But anyway, awesome. Thank you. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much. I think, well, I just saw the plan on the website. So I think Chapter 17 outlines tsunami. But just for clarification, these are hazard overviews. So also in that chapter, it's not a plan. So a hazard overview is like when they're going to describe to you, like in this hazard, this is how high the water will go. This is how far back the people should go. This is how much population is here. So aside from the hazard overviews, is there another place I should look?
Yes, ma'am. It's not on the website. It's not public facing. What you were looking at is the local hazard mitigation plan, which was ratified here just a couple months ago. Just a couple months ago. The comprehensive emergency management plan is not public facing, and you can find the various checklists and action items that you're mentioning. It's in our crisis management system called VOC.
Are we allowed to look at that?
I can absolutely provide you.
Well, I guess I'm just wondering so that I can see if after what we talked about today, if anything that we suggested can then go into the plan so that we can see that there's been amendments. Is there somebody from your office that's taking notes on like what action items will happen after this?
Absolutely, and Molly's here to assist me as well, and we can actually absolutely get you copies of the plan.
Yeah, I think it'd be good just to see where it was after this discussion, now where it will be based upon the suggestions. That way we know that there's forward progress and we can inform our communities that our suggestions didn't just go up in the air, but they actually went written into the plan, right? So I think it would be good. I do also think that the list that you provided at the end of lessons learned is not comprehensive. Each of the departments had good stuff, and I think that would be more comprehensive as everybody's lessons learned and then you putting that all together. Again, iterating the comment that Councilmember Okimoto said that you're in charge. So definitely all of their lessons learned need to be your lessons learned so that we can kind of integrate that into the amended plan. Thank you very much, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Director. Appreciate it. Okay. We will go to first in council in the chamber. Is there anyone like to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. All right. I know there's people waiting online, so let's start with Neil. I don't want to mess your last name up. I guess
that's okay. Flytel. Neil Flytel. That's fine.
Okay,
Nobody
Neil.
gets it right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna say first and foremost, emergency preparedness is not the same as emergency management, and I think we need to sort of understand that one is not the same as the other, and it's difficult. It's gaming out what-if situations is not something most people have the knowledge, skills, and real-world experience to do. I would also like to say that emergency preparedness is hard to fund. How do we fund things that may never happen? So that's the challenge. That's the two challenges here. I got 30 seconds left. I'm going to beg to differ with our new director of DEM. I think on his last chart was public education. You cannot have a plan that does not include what the public is supposed to do. Kept in secret, it's not public facing. Nobody knows where to go. Perhaps if the public knew that in a flood situation, tsunami or hurricane, they knew to go Mauka instead of home, you might get a better result. All of that can be pre-planned. I don't want to take much more time, although
no, you've been waiting for a while. I'll give you some more. I'll give you some time. Go ahead, sir.
So that's just one example. In other words, yes, education of the public is extremely important, but they need to be privy to an actual plan that includes them. Where do they go? And I note that the fire department is going Mauka, okay, and that makes sense, okay. And maybe these places of assembly, and I believe that came from Assistant Director Jennifer, that term, but I could be wrong. But these places of assembly that are Mauka, if you're talking about the south-facing beaches, okay, great. Periodically, as we go east to west, there are Mauka places of assembly, fire, EMS, the public that needs to go Mauka, okay? And one last thing that I just think is amazing. So I'm on the first floor of a condominium, okay, or an apartment. I'm supposed to take my 2-week supply of water, which is about 500 pounds, and my 2-week supply of food, and go up to the 3rd floor and knock on a door. Where am I supposed to go, really? So that saying that, and I heard that from Molly, who I know as well, right after I said, well, we need to actually plan that out a little better instead of just saying, yeah, we can if you don't need to go anywhere except up. But it's not as simple as we're making it out to be. So there's a lot that needs to be done that isn't emergency management. It is emergency preparedness. And I'll let it go at that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the testifier? Councilmember Kiaina.
Aloha, Neil. Could you
Aloha.
elaborate further on my line of questioning with the director with regard to a comprehensive plan separate from the mitigation plan that the city has that's uniquely tailored for our island community? Can you elaborate more on your recommendation?
Yeah. Well, the mitigation plan is a mitigation plan. And clearly, if the mitigation plan, I haven't, the past one said, hey, clearly 30 some odd % of our public is going to have to evacuate. If we know that in advance, okay, it seems ridiculous that we do not give them places of assembly. We don't have shelters. Granted, that's a problem. Can't say the word shelter, okay? But we can have places of assembly, and we should. Everyone should know where to go in advance. God willing, they can stay home, okay? But if their roof blows off, another problem here, most of the roofs of single-family dwellings on this island were built long before a hurricane strap was invented. So this is going to be Blue Tarp City if we have a wind event, okay? So all of this is pre-planning. This is preparedness. It is not necessarily management. Yeah, hunkering down in the bunker and doing what you do, and yes, coordinating with HFD and HPD and EMS. Those are all really, really important things. Absolutely. And I wouldn't denigrate it, but I'm saying there's an awful lot more that we need to do. We know we have a problem with low-lying areas. We know we're one road in, one road out, okay? We know we have certain problems, okay? So how do we develop a plan that is specifically designed around our island? That is the trick. You can't get that from the FEMA book. Taking enough FEMA classes to know, and I love FEMA, okay? But this has got to be about our island.
Thank you. Neil, thank you so much. I had mentioned to HFD about how they're going to have joint exercises and training with other agencies, and said that it would also be good to have it in specific areas in the community. I do know that we can give them all of the recommendations that we want, but I feel that as a community, we also can take charge. I do know that there's a lot of people who on their own just went to parking lots in the various churches that were away, for example. And so we need not just be waiting for them to tell us what to do. I think we also need to galvanize. And so I would be welcome to you helping me to coordinate a community exercise for the Windward side. And
the Emergency Preparedness Committee of the neighborhood we would love to be actively pursuing.
And then I also had Irene inform you that I did share your testimony with the DM director.
Appreciate that.
And I do know that there's been concerns from the Kaneohe Neighborhood Board. And so in whatever fashion he can come, whether to meet with a cadre of community members like yourself or to come to the Kaneohe Neighborhood Board, he expressed an interest in wanting to do that. I just wanted to let you know that.
That's great. Let's do both. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. We have David Laeha, sorry. Is David online?
Chair, testifier is not logged on.
Okay, then we can go to Gregory Misakayan.
Thank you, Chair. That was an excellent presentation. I just want to thank the committee for putting this together today. I wasn't planning to testify on this, but I stayed because it was so engaging. So I do want to thank you. I want to thank the first responders. I want to thank Neil for saying some of the things I was going to say, so he's already captured some of my thoughts. I just held a citizen speak session for Kokua Council this past week, where we had people just bring up concerns, and one of them was emergency management and the tsunami. So this was something we had a discussion on. Representative Kim Kokowewamoto was there, and she also responded with some comments. I will say this, I live in a condominium, and I'm on the 11th floor, which is technically, I think, the 16th floor with our parking structures. My suggestion is on the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency website, that I should be able to go and put in my address and have a recommendation of what I should do, knowing that I live in a high-rise condominium where I live. If I'm in a single-family residence, the location, you know, what I should do. Is it okay if I just go a little bit longer too, or just—
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just because I'm trying to offer some solution. You know, what I should do, a recommendation, stay in place. For me, I know stay in place, but Neil said it perfectly. And I've said this, and we discussed this last week. What do you do if you have to go above the 4th floor? It's not your building. First, you have to get access to the building and have them allow you to come in. And if they allow you, that's great. But then when you go up, where do you go? If you're in a hallway and there's 20 people in the hallway with your supplies or whatever, it doesn't really work well. So all of that needs to just be documented ahead of time, so that all of this discussion doesn't become a waste of a discussion. And then put that there on a website, use the neighborhood boards to get the word out. And the last thing I'll say for time, so we can let you guys move on. Kapuna, you know, I'm on here today and I have access to a computer, but many Kapuna don't know what's going on. There has to be a way for them to get messaging, so they receive something maybe in the mail, this is what you should do. And there needs to be someone to watch for them. So someone who can actually, if they're not able to get out of their property, they have to have a person designated who can help them. So I'll leave it there. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Questions for the testifier? Okay, I think we have one more left, right, clerks? Okay, and we saved the best for last. Angela Young. Go ahead, Angela.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. And so, you know, I didn't get to hear anything about the Resilient Neighborhood Group, which is a Serene in collaboration with Kapiolani Community College. And so for my neighborhood security walk for the community policing team, we make sure that our seniors are equipped and our neighbors are equipped to respond in a case of emergency. We went to the Serene online training to learn about proper facilities design and what buildings are appropriate to evacuate to during a disaster. That does not prevent physical obstructions involving windborne debris, structural damage, and flooding. And evacuation routes to facilities must be designed to ensure the safe and rapid egress of all citizens. And each community has specific evacuation sites to go to, for example, the state capitals and schools. So, you know, I'm really excited that these offices are so collaborative because, you know, doing evacuation to resilient hubs helps to direct the flow of traffic so that people don't get stuck on the streets.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm really excited that the majority of these, I'll summarize. I'm really excited a majority of these offices are getting prepared to do a setup for students and families for Children's Day. So it's to teach emergency response education to Keiki of Hawaii. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Okay, thank you guys. I want to thank all our first responders. Thank you, Director, for today's informational. Super, you know, that something that we all needed, something that, you know, hopefully we can not let this thing go and really try to find some real good solutions. So thank you, Councilmember Kiaina, for making this happen. All right. Mahalo everyone for attending and participating in today's meeting. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.